The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Saturdays or Sundays, SOR Media, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the expressed written consent of SOR Media is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised. Are you experienced? Then come own the night with us.
Little brother has taken control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all
stationed atop the mountains of British Columbia, live from SOR headquarters. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong.
You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, and on Spaced Out Radio on iTunes. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio.
Brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized.
It's Monday, June 4th, Tuesday, June 5th, if you're on the East Coast or across the pond. And this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. Welcome to a brand new week. Hope you had a great day and night. I am your host, Dave Scott, live from the Great White North, on top of the mountains of central British Columbia, right here at the brand new SOR headquarters, still being built. We are 150,000 strong nightly on the SOR radio network. You can also check us out live on Periscope.tv every Monday through Friday night. And if you're searching for our archives, just go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Hit the subscribe button there. I would appreciate that. You can listen to our archives for free. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to some Bumblefoot, shop at our Spaced Out Radio store, read up on the encounter online, or watch great videos from UFO Seekers, Contact TV, and so much more. We welcome you to a brand new week here, Space Travelers. We see it's picking up in the building and in the chat rooms. I'm excited to kick off this week. We're going large and hard on UFOs this week. Big things coming. Big things coming this week. You're going to like the lineup. Ryan Stacey tonight. Geraldine Orozco tomorrow night. Grant Cameron, Victor Vigiani, Richard Dolan to finish off the week. It's going to be a good one. And as I stated, tonight we have Ryan Stacey coming onto the show from MUFON Canada. This month in Toronto, Ontario, the Alien Cosmic Expo takes place June 23rd to 25th. With this third annual conference put on by MUFON Canada, there will be a lot of heavy focus on UFOs and disclosure. And not only what is the role of the United States in this, but Canada as well. Ryan is a Provincial Director in Ontario for MUFON Canada and is also on MUFON's Board of Directors. We're glad to have Ryan back in Space Out Radio Land. Ryan, it's been a while, a couple years since you've been on the show, but man, are we glad to have you back. How you been doing?
I've been great. How about you?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic, my friend. And I'm a little sad that I'm not going to be in Toronto for.
Yeah, I know, me too. I really wanted you to. I really piped up with the timing, but next year, right?
You know what? I know Stu really wanted to bring me in. Grant and yourself wanted to bring me in. It was a little too late this year for both of us, but next year, you guys make the call. I will be there. I definitely want to be there, man. I definitely want to, because you guys got such a great event going on there with Alien Cosmic Expo, and we're going to talk a little bit about that just to start off the show. Explain to our audience why this got going in Toronto a couple years ago.
From my understanding, it started with Joanne Eady a few years back, and she's been very successful with it. I was introduced to it in 2016, I believe, 2 years ago. And then, so we were just me and Stu were just kind of looking at it as a platform to raise awareness for MUFON Canada in general. And then we ended up helping on the side, and then eventually that bloomed into a partnership, which is, I think we're in our third year now, I believe, for the Cosmic Expo in general. The second year that I'll be attending to. And I think so. It's still early in its development years, but it is growing and it is expanding. And the buzz is out there. We've kicked it up a notch with our advertising this year. So we're hoping to increase our numbers this year, our attendance, and we hope to do better every year.
What is the attitude like in Toronto for an event like this? Because this is something, Ryan, across Canada, our American friends really don't understand how much Canadians are still quite in the closet about this topic.
Which topic in particular? There's so much things going on.
UFOs, disclosure, ET contact.
Well, it's defined in the dark, because I think Canada as a country is more so forgotten than anything, because there's so much stuff going in the United States that I think Canada is easily forgotten. But we're definitely not in the dark. We just need to be heard. And so the Alien Cosmic Expo is definitely a Canadian symposium. Excuse me, sorry, I have allergies. So I think the bigger issue is getting people to come and actually listen to our Canadian content.
I don't think many people, though, in Canada, Ryan, realize that Canada is actually home to some of the world's most premier UFOlogists.
Yes.
It's an all-star lineup.
We have, so there's Grant Cameron, we have Victor Vigiani, we have myself, we have Leslie Mitchell-Clark, Wes Roberts, Stanton Friedman will be there. That's actually going to be his second last stop before he retires. His next visit, I think, is in Roswell. I believe will be the final one, because that's where it started. So if that isn't a good enough excuse to come, it's just going to be the last time you're going to be able to see Stanton Friedman in Canada at any symposium. I'm just looking through the lineup here. I don't know too many personally. There's Mark St. Germain, John Charles Moyen, and a few others maybe, and Chad W. He's Canadian as well. I believe a few others are Canadian as well, but I haven't dived too much into that. Stu's taking care of that. He knows all these people. He's been chatting them up. Linda Moulton Howe, she's going to be a big one. Richard Dolan, even though they're American, those are still big hits. Happy to see them again.
Caveat for Richard Dolan, his wife, or soon-to-be wife, is from British Columbia, right here in Vancouver.
Right. I think they did get married.
Not yet.
I do believe.
Not
recently.
Well, maybe they did.
Yet?
Maybe not yet,
Not sure.
but I know they're engaged to be married.
Okay. Yeah. See, I don't really get caught up in all that stuff. I've been really like hitting the papers and studying and doing my research and whatnot. So to forgive me for not being 100% on the gossip and the who's who, but
we got to get you in the know. We got to get you in the know.
I know.
You know,
I know.
if you're gonna swim in the big pond, man, you got to be in the know for that.
No, 100%.
Who's dating who? That's so important in the field of ufology. Ryan,
I guess.
Well, let's get to you here for a second, because the last time we had you on, you were almost like a brand new researcher when it came to MUFON Canada, and you seem to have moved up the ranks quite a bit. How did that happen so quick?
Well, I've been working really hard, and I guess the recognition was there. There was positions available. I raised my hand every time, and then my work was reviewed and talked upon. And then eventually, as opportunities came up, I always said yes. I always did it. I always did more than what was expected. And I achieved a lot more. And I accidentally turned this into a career for myself. It wasn't, excuse me, a volunteer career, mind you. But it basically, I just dived into it. I really got, once I got the understanding of the information that's there, I really just got lost in the data. And then I went right to work, and then, and then next 2 years passed, and here I am.
It's something that once you get started, it really is addicting, isn't it? Yes,
it's very addicting. It's like rabbit holes, like, because I'm an investigator by trade. So I love to get to the bottom of things. I like to solve puzzles. I like to figure it out. So this keeps me definitely busy, because there's a lot of unsolved puzzles that still remain to be solved, but there's never a dull moment for sure.
Now, tell us your role inside MUFON Canada.
So, inside MUFON Canada, I am the Provincial Director of Ontario, so I am responsible for things like recruiting new members, new field investigators. I set up a chapter meeting. Actually, I just started chapter meetings this year, so I'll be having our third quarter chapter meeting, I believe, in July, up in the Midland Penetang area. I believe at our last meeting we talked about doing a CSETI with because of the work of Stephen Greer, just to try that out to see if we can get any results. I believe Stu did that last week too. So, and then a part of that, I am the Chief Investigator for Ontario, so I am responsible for the overflow of investigations within Ontario. I'm responsible for assigning investigations to the field investigators there. And on top of that, I'm also case assistance groups for CAG International, which means that if any support is needed within Canada or any other international area, I'm delegated to assist with those cases. So basically, that is my three hats, my job descriptions, and then above that, I've been just really looking at the data for the last year, and I've been putting together a survey, which I'm going to be releasing to the public at the symposium at ACE. And I will be talking about it on the Sunday. And what it's called is the Canadian Current Event Survey. And basically what I'm going to be focusing on is what actually has been flying in the sky in the last year. And where that comes from is I'm seeing a lot of people diving into disclosure, but they want answers for stuff that has already happened or it's from the past. And to me, that is good. And we have a lot of people and a lot of back supporters that are pushing for disclosure on a whole. But my personal fight for disclosure, in conjunction with that, is to focus on what's actually happening, because I believe that a lot of the data that's in front of us today is just as important as the stuff that we want to know is true. So I kind of, Roswell, we know Roswell happened. We know Shag Harbor happened. We know all these things happened. And for me, to have disclosure and to have them confess and say, yeah, you know what, you caught us, it did happen. It was 50 years ago. Well, to me, that's not as important as, it's equally as important as the stuff that's happening that's being forgotten right now. Does that make sense?
I want to ask you, before we get any deeper into this, I think a lot of us, people in the field of ufology or radio show hosts, were a little shocked to see earlier this year the Canadian Mint release a coin shaped like a guitar pick about a UFO experience in Manitoba back in 1967. What was your reaction when that coin came out?
Well, yeah, that was definitely strange, and I don't know if that is a mimic or a gimmick, a joke, or a soft disclosure. It definitely raises questions because, why would you, what's the purpose of the mint coin in the first place, right? Memorable moments, milestones, historical stuff. So to put it on the coin, not April Fool's or anything I guess it was in April, wasn't it? So it could have been an April Fool's joke, but then it, turned out to be real, legit. And I know some people actually paid the $200 for it. And so my opinion on it is there has to be a reason for it. Maybe that is a soft disclosure. Maybe that is their way of accepting it, because Canada has their own research and reporting site. I don't have the link on me, but I know it does exist. And then from that idea, that is kind of what birthed the CRCU, which is Canadian Research Council on UFOs, which is something that myself, Victor Vigiani, Stu Bundy, and Rob Shimon had created as a push towards politics, Canadian politics, to see if they will actually disclose any information based on stuff within Canadian borders. Victor Vigiani will be able to comment 100% on that more better because he piloted the project. He's got the research. My position within that is just to validate the information once he collects it as an investigative journalist. So, in a nutshell, I think it was done deliberately for a reason. That's my opinion on it.
I found it very strange too, and a lot of people, maybe especially our American listeners, can be like, why is this such a big deal? We have Roswell, we have everything else down here. But it also puts us on the map. It does. It absolutely does. It absolutely does. But it's such a strange way to do it because, let's face it, the Canadian government has never been very forthright in even talking about UFOs, let alone, building a coin. And that coin has to be approved by the Minister of Finance in Ottawa.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't know.
Well, it still adds to the I don't want to use the word conspiracy because it's not, but it still adds to the mystique of why it was bringing it out.
Mm-hmm. So I just found that I was actually looking for the links here. So if you go to MUFONCanada.com, there's a new website there. If you click on the CRCU, let me see where exactly that is for those who are listening. CRCU banner at the bottom. So if you click that, you'll see you'll get information about the CRCU and then a full list of documents. There's a Here button. If you click that, there's a list of documents that we have already collected and that we are, or resources that we are showing to the public. That is where the survey is going to be once it's ready as well. But a little ways down, you have 3 links. Timeline of documents about UFOs in Canada, Library and Archives of Canada UFO Database, Canada UFOs, the search for the unknown. So if you click on those individual links, they bring you to the government websites. And it shows acknowledgement of UFOs in a database. This is something that was brought to my attention recently, which I had no idea because I've been personally caught up with all the American stuff that, I forget about digging in my own backyard. So I don't know how many people out there are aware that this information is out there, but it's got data from I believe, where's the date here? 1947 until I think 73, something like that. Back data. So why would they have that? You know.
Well, I mean, there are so many different ideas behind it. And, you know, I know Victor Vigiani, who we will talk to here on this show on Thursday night, is very hot on the trail of why the Canadian government would allow that. Do you think there is some conspiracy behind that coin? And when I say conspiracy, I'm not talking tinfoil conspiracy, but maybe that's kind of Canada's or the Canadian government's way of saying, yeah, we know this is happening here.
Yeah, it can. Well, yeah. So it could be acknowledgement. It could be a joke. It could be a number of things, really. But I mean, you can find a conspiracy in anything, really. But I think it was a smart political move in the sense to let the world know that Canada is being observed by UFOs as well. You know, that can be said with Canada in general with a lot of topics. You know, like we always hear US, but Canada does happen to be an underdog in some respects, and maybe they're piggybacking and using this idea at the right opportunity at the right time to get some notice, and or maybe someone was just having a laugh. We don't know.
Well, it's going to be very interesting to see what Victor says on Thursday night about that. So when you are looking at this and going into your own personal investigations with MUFON, let's take you back a bit here, because you are a private investigator by trade.
Yes.
So how did you go from private investigator into the paranormal and eventually MUFON?
So when I started my company for investigations, we're very, very far and few in between. So in effort to keep my tools sharpened, I reached out for any services that need help. I started actually with missing persons, volunteered my time looking for old case files and things like that. And then I always had an interest in paranormal before UFOs. And then somehow I got brought into MUFON in general, and then I discovered that there was MUFON Canada division, which I didn't know at first. I had to do some back digging as well. But eventually I gave Stu a call, and I gave him the rundown about what I was trying to do and what I was accomplishing. And then I thought it was a good platform. It was access to information for me to be able to challenge my investigating skills that I could apply to the real work, because whether the witness interviews will be the same, right? We're collecting the data, collecting the statements, validating the information, cross-checking, cross-examining, history checks, all that stuff. So I was using it really as a training platform to sharpen my tools until my business kicked off. Business has kicked off on the security front, and unfortunately there's not so much as a niche for PI work here in my community as I'd like it to be. So then eventually MUFON became a hobby, and after moving up the ranks, my work has kind of put me in a position where I am hogtied and told that I'm never allowed to leave. So it kind of just happened. Excuse me.
So when you started getting into the UFOs, did you take it seriously right off the bat that people were having these experiences, or was there a little bit of skepticism in wondering what this crap was?
Well, I had an interest to begin with. Skepticism has been there. It's not there as much as it used to be. As time has passed, and I've seen a lot of correlation. But at first, going in, I investigated black and white, both innocent and guilty at the same time, trying to understand the data and collect the data. And it's as far as crap goes, it's hard to determine, because you cannot say for sure that the person is lying, even if you're right in front of them and they're telling you, as dead as night, that they saw something in the sky, even if it can be explained by natural means. There's no not convincing someone. And that was one of the turnover points for me, is because there was no physical evidence to actually link to the witness to say that they're, guilty or not guilty, for, so to speak, right? Telling the truth and not telling the truth. It was stuck in limbo. So that intrigued me because it's a challenge, right? So that kind of sparked the whole interest in taking front running with all the things that I'm doing now, is to get to the bottom of it, whether it's whether it's there or not. But then that has snowballed into a plethora of consistent data from multiple sources from all over the place that do not know each other, telling the same thing at the same time. So I was skeptic. I'm a little more of not really so a believer, but I do believe that there is a correlation, and there's a lot of information. I'm still trying to figure out for myself what exactly that is.
Why join?
If something is going on.
Why join MUFON? Why not do your own thing?
Well, I'm doing. Excuse me, I'm really sorry about my cold. It was easy at first. MUFON was already established. The credibility is there. I believe 1969 is when it started. So they have a good rapport. They've been, they're very reputable. And being a private investigator, reputation is very good. So if I'm going to freelance and do something like this on the side, I wanted to be associated with something that was very, very reputable. And that is very important, especially running a company as a private investigator and then coming out and say, I also investigate paranormal and UFOs. That is a really hard thing to market separately. So to do my own thing, I am doing my own thing within the walls of MUFON. It is kind of a security blanket, because I'm not really comfortable with saying to the public that I investigate these things, because I'm not sure. I don't want that to deter from my real, I don't want to say real clients, but from my professional clients, security investigating. So I market my paranormal and UFOlogy work separately under the same umbrella. So it's Blacklight Uncharted Paranormal Division, but I don't link the two together. So I do have kind of two different networks. Now recently, after 2 years of kicking and screaming, Stu Bundy has suggested that I do come forward and kind of self-promote myself as my own thing. Last night I did sit down for about 4 hours and think real hard about how to put out a Facebook page to highlight my own personal stuff. And that actually was risky on its own, but I have to do it. In order for me to continue and push to do what I want to do, I have to kind of embrace it and own it. So I'm kind of grateful in a way that I've waited a few years for the business to kick off. I've earned that rapport. I've earned that respect on that side. I'm still professional no matter what. And then I can continue to be professional in the paranormal and UFOlogical realm without any risk of people saying, oh, you do this, you're not serious. And that was a huge, huge challenge. Now, the Facebook page is facebook.com/heedtheworld, and that will be my platform for everything that's going to kind of move forward. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet. I've made a Blacklight Uncharted and Paranormal Division social group so we can have discussions. That was launched yesterday. I've kind of just revealed to the public that I do this. It's only like 30 likes, so I'm still a nobody, but I mean, at some point it will grow. So I am starting to do my own thing, but I still back MUFON 100% because MUFON has given me the opportunities and the access to information that allows me to do my own thing. So I support them 100%.
Do you remember your first case? Do Do you remember what it was all about and what it felt like and how different it was from, say, investigating a private case, being a PI?
I sure do. I got it actually mounted on my wall here. It's MUFON case 72718. There's these, and it was actually published in the MUFON Journal in September last year. And I believe it was like November, it's the day here, November 24th, 2015. So that was my first case. And it was given to me by the Chief Investigator, Dave Palachuk, as a training tool. It was a historical case. And I was told, through my training, is just look at it, it's face value. It's hard to trace the data and all these other things because it was so old. I think it happened in 2004, so I guess 10 or 11 years prior to the start of the investigation. But at the same time, I thought, well, these guys don't know me. It's my first case. I really got to pull up my socks. I really got to show them how well I do this and what I can do because, they were really happy about me being a private investigator on their team and whatnot. So I had to show my strength. Well, that turned into to be the largest investigation I have done in my career so far and led me down a rabbit hole of multiple experiences, and not just the one. It also led me down a rabbit hole that there was a paranormal connection. It also got me me and the team an invitation to the campground, Conestoga Campground, and we were allowed to videotape and film and do a full investigation there. And we learned that several witnesses have seen apparitions on the park, as well as multiple people have seen lights and beings within the forestry there. So there was a correlation between the area, both being, sighting locations for paranormal activity and UFO activity or extraterrestrial beings. So that is kind of where it started with this interest of bridging everything together, but I didn't know it at the time. So that is definitely going to be the starting point and the milestone because I always look back on it. I ended up going one step further and I filmed everything and put together a 22-minute, not really mockumentary or pilot, of what we've done. Actually, I think I uploaded it to our YouTube channel just to show somebody, but it's not public. So yes, I will always remember my first case because I did so much with it, and it was supposed to be a cut and dry. Hey, take a look at this. Here's an example. Just close it because there's no historical data. And then through that, I was able to show and teach and educate on how I was able to take that little bits of data and follow the breadcrumbs. And not knowing it at the time, but that is probably the single-handed most important thing that's led me to the position that I'm in today, which is the Director of Training for MUFON Global. So I'm now responsible for training every single field investigator for the entire MUFON. And I've only had that position for a couple months. There's a lot of things a lot of moving parts, but I haven't been able to do what I want to do yet, but it's coming.
Take us through the training of a MUFON investigator, because there is so much to do with that. And we've had a number of MUFON investigators over the years on the air with us. Some who have brought forward some incredible information. Others who, and I don't mean this to be rude, but couldn't string two sentences together. And what goes into that training, and besides just the field investigation? Do you go through media training? Do you go through investigative training? How to ask people questions? Explain it to us.
So we do have the field investigator's manual. Let me just pull mine up here. So it starts with this manual. So you order the manual either online, and you can go through MUFON University, or you can order the hard copy and have it delivered to you. We're currently in the 6th edition from 2013, so it's been revised 6 times. Data is changing and information, whatnot. It is a total. Actually, I don't have numbers on here, do I? No, I don't have numbers. 1, 2, I believe there's 16 sections. So it's for you guys, for a visual there, the book is about 1.5 inches thick, and the pages are 8.5 by 11. So there's a lot of information there, and it'll just be easier to make sure I just cover everything. So we cover the code of ethics within MUFON as a field investigator, which is important. Our mission, what we want to do, the whole core, the whole reason for collecting the data, and for the scientific studies to benefit humanity. Then we go through the network within MUFON, so your position as a field investigator, and then where that branches off to your chief investigator, and then your state director, section state director, national, all these different positions. So how the chain of command kind of runs and what everyone's role is about, and how they're important in their own roles and how we work together. Then we touch base on the necessary equipment that is used, desirable equipment, which is, stuff that is good to have, but not everybody can afford it. Same thing with optional. And so we kind of break down what equipment is good to use and when to use it. Then we go into public information, case information, how to collect public information, how to, get the information out of witnesses in a controlled and respectful way, without interrogating. That's important. We don't want them to feel uncomfortable. We want them to talk to us. There's information about interviews and TV. If you ever have to speak to the media, we break down into the categories of certain UFO cases. How we like our valet classification system, which is because every case that comes in gets classified as a category, and what do you call it? And it gets a category and a classification, and then that will determine the level of investigation that is needed on the case and the response time and all that. That is explained as well. There's interviews with the witness. That is explained. How to take photographs. How to collect evidence if there's ever a touchdown or anything like that. We go over that, measuring distance, trigonometry. Other than that, basically we break down everything from the start to everything that's absolutely encompassing the entire investigation in this entire book. So once you're done that, you're tested on it. You get an exam. And then you get the exam, 80% to pass, and then you send that in, it gets reviewed, it gets passed, or you do it online, and then you pass, you get your mark. And then you have to go through a screening, clearance, background check, make sure that you don't have a criminal record, or, because you're going to be, you could travel to a witness's homes, and they could have children. There's a lot of vulnerability scenarios. So we check all that out, and then once that's done, then you're sent to your state director, or in this case, Canada, your provincial director, and they will connect you with the chief investigator of whatever province or state that you are representing, and they will send you a case within a CMS, which is our case management system, and they will go through you everything you just learned based on the situation that you're given. So each case is different. So I would call that situational data. So depending on what's there and what they're saying, will determine which of these tools within this book is best to use. And that point is when I got my first case, and everything that I did was within the book, but plus more. There's a lot of things in here that I'd like to do.
Ryan, I want to ask you about this because, you guys can have the perfect manual, you guys can have the perfect training system, but it comes down to the people doing the work themselves on whether or not they could do. So how do you screen the people who are entering MUFON, not only as field investigators, but potentially as, let's say, state directors?
So currently I do not have control of that. To my understanding, the way that it is set up right now is that the state directors that are in place will choose, JAM will choose based on their merit. They have a system That hasn't really been provided to me yet, but it's based out of the book. And Jan will basically review everyone and make a decision, and then they'll decide based on the work that they put out, and as long as they're following the guidelines that I've set out in the manual. Now, as far as work goes, like personality is important too, because we have to look into their mannerism when talking to the directors, their mannerism when talking to witnesses, their mannerism when they're talking to their field investigators. Like, it's all evidence is shown within their ability to lead. That is what is currently in place. As the director of training, what I'm going to do in the future, sometime after July, once our symposium and ACE is all completed, is I'm going to make certain criteria, and I'm going to add to the MUFON University an exam, because I would like to, because currently the information isn't examinable, and I would like it to be, because I feel that over time, certain tools don't get sharpened, or certain information is forgotten, or you just need a refresher. And it's a good idea to have them re-examined on the information they should already know within the manual, to sharpen those tools again. And then based on that system, from there, we could set up another criteria where a certain score is required in order to get the promotion, per se. Now, we do have to be, it is a volunteer organization. We can't really say no to everyone, but we would, we do a good screening, a good vetting, and a good feel. If we don't feel comfortable, then we talk it out. But the best thing too is if we don't feel that they're fit for that position, we don't turn them down. We'll find another place for them to go. We'll create a position for them, because at the end of the day, these people are working really hard for free for the personal interest of UFO and study in the community. And they've reached out to us and they want to do more. So, there's, again, the situational based, right? So that every case, every person is different, every standard, every human being is different. But what's important is their interest and their want to do more. Now, does that make them the best person for that position? Not always, but we don't really know that until we give them the opportunity to try. And then from there, we work it out. We make it work. And if it doesn't work, then we provide solutions and suggestions, and then eventually, it'll sort itself out, just like any organization. It's just a little harder because we're volunteer and there's no monetary gain. So we really want to refrain from being strict and hard on our volunteers, because we need them. But this, so it's kind of like a fine line. Does that make sense?
It totally makes a lot of sense in regards to it.
It's really difficult. It's really difficult to manage, but it's worked since the beginning of time, right? It's the beginning of MUFON. So
I understand that, but I mean, there's a lot of things that you guys, I guess, have to watch out for now. I mean, you guys have taken a lot of heat in the last year or so in regards to comments that John Ventry has made, and that hasn't been a pretty situation, and many are feeling that it hasn't been dealt with properly. I mean, maybe that's a question best set for Jan or Stu, but I mean, I guess you've had to tighten up your game.
Well, yeah, define properly, right? Because freedom of speech and all that stuff, whether it's right and justified, he's at a position it was a bad thing, no matter how you look at it. He, from what I understand, I wasn't a director at the time that this had happened, but conversations have, his name has come up a few times. But to my understanding is that an action, action was taken in response. And then I think the flack that we're getting now is whether or not that action was suitable. And the problem with that is half of them are going to think that's suitable, and half of them are going to think it's not suitable. And then, like, we're not going to please everybody. And what's very, very important, especially when we have so many people doing so many things, and we have so many other avenues that we're trying to pursue, we're trying to expand, we're trying to do so much things. So, advance so much more. This is a tiny little sore on our ass, so to speak, that, you know, people tend to bring up, but they're forgetting all the other things. And it's just really, it depends on the person, depends on the thing. The way I look at it, like, I don't agree with his comments, definitely don't. I don't support that 100%. My acknowledgement, though, is that actions were taken. Is he still a part of MUFON? To my understanding, he's not. It's done. It's over with. You know, mistakes were made. We gotta move on.
But Ryan, you know, I'll challenge you on this. It isn't done because he was part of a MUFON course or a MUFON gathering about UFOs just last month that he helped set up.
There was talk about him doing that. From what I've been told, is that he was pulled from that. But I never went to it. I've never been there. So, and I've been. No one has commented about seeing him there. So as far as I understand, when that was brought to our attention, that it was dealt with. I have no way to confirm whether it was dealt there unless I go to that conference myself. And the issue with that is Ventry being a person himself, right? So we can ban him from using our name, we can ban him from the organization, but we can't stop him from investigating UFOs. We can't stop him from pursuing what he wants to do. And that is a challenge. But I do know that MUFON doesn't support him from what I've been told anyways, unless I've been lied to, which I strongly feel that I haven't. I do support Jan and his, you know, everything he's been telling me so far.
What do you think? What do you think then about the public criticism or the public wave? Chris Cogswell, your scientist, leaving MUFON about John Ventry.
Well, you know, he has his opinions and he has his feelings on that as well. The information that I had about that that's kind of how it all started. Is just that's how the information got brought to us. And then it was dealt with, and then I believe it was explained to him that it was dealt with, and he felt it necessary to still leave, and that's a decision that he made. Again, I have not heard whether he went or didn't go. Like, I honestly have been so busy with everything else that it didn't really, you know, it hasn't really affected me. In a sense, like it's like it was a position was lost based on something else that happened before my time. So I haven't really, for me to comment on this, it's all hearsay on my part because I haven't experienced it. And but I'm now dealing with it on a management level. But being Canadian, you know, like it's not really, it doesn't affect Canada right now, you know. So I'm kind of not really ignoring it, but just kind of like there's so much things going on that I would rather focus my time on than...
Well, there are things that are above your pay scale, no pun intended.
Yeah.
And this would probably be one of them. When it comes to MUFON Canada, is there a big difference with MUFON in the United States and what MUFON Canada is? Are they two separate organizations combined into one? Or is Canada treated much like a state director would be in California or Pennsylvania or Hawaii?
We're considered an international state to the hub in the United States. We have our own board of directors, like our own, like, we don't call them board of directors, but we have our own, like, I guess, network of leadership. We do run our self-sustain. We kind of do what we need to do, but within MUFON guidelines. That's what Stu is responsible for, to make sure that everything runs downhill. And he reports to Jan and checks in with everything that we're doing, and Jan's well aware. Now that I'm on, that's the current state, but now that I am on the staff, I'm always pushing to combine United States and Canada together as to one, to make it a North American branch or North American, and to make it more national, because we do, excuse me, occasionally have UFOs across the borders and stuff like that. And if I am working with personalities in the United States, de-escalating and helping and calming people down and assisting them with that, I'd like my job to be easier here in Canada to apply those tools and activities kind of globally, or at least for North America. So it is kind of viewed separately currently, and that's just not just because we're not cared about. It's just because we just have two different leaders that are trusted and they talk to each other. Like Stu and Jan talk to each other 100%. They both trust each other, and they both scratch each other's backs. Well, that's kind of the way that it's been. Jan is busy with 101 million things up on his end. All he's really cares about, for the most part, is whether we're doing good. And if we're doing good, he's happy. And then we're carrying on doing our own thing. But I would like us to be, personally, I would like Canada to be recognized and more noticed within the nation or within the continent. We are putting out, we are starting to cross over. I think we have some information that's going to be going into a couple of the MUFON journals. Like, we are eventually being branched over to HQ, and we are getting some recognition now, which is great. Because we all have been working hard. We all of us within MUFON Canada have been working extremely hard in general. And it's nice to be recognized finally, even on a small scale. And the symposium that we have, ACE, is a piggyback off of the symposium that they're doing as well. So, kind of mirroring them, we're trying to, we are doing the same thing, and we are working together. But I can understand how some people see it as separate.
Is MUFON Canada really starting to grow? Are you starting to set up other chapters outside of Ontario, or are you just focusing there for right now?
Like MUFON Canada in general, or me?
MUFON Canada.
Yeah, so we have a chapter in, we have provincial directors in all the provinces. So Nathan Zieber is our provincial director for Alberta, and then we have Dave Palachek, who who's the provincial director for the Maritimes, and I think Saskatchewan and Manitoba. And then I think Wade Mellison is out in BC. So we do have like a bunch of directors in our corresponding provinces, and we work together. Within that, we have Chief Investigator Dave Palachek, and then we have Stu Bundy as our National Director. We have our own leadership, and we all work together for all the provinces, and it's all covered. I'm just in Ontario, and Ontario happens to be the busiest for UFO sightings. I don't know if that's just because we have the largest reach out here, maybe because it started in Ontario. I don't know the reason for that. But I am seeing an expansion into the reports being reported out in the other provinces, which is great. Awareness is important. And that's another reason why I want MUFON Canada to be recognized nationally, so that the mass who know what MUFON is will understand that there is a Canadian version as well, because a lot of our members were MUFON HQ members before they became MUFON Canada, and they didn't even know we existed. So we have to up our game on marketing and whatnot too. But we're growing. We got 5 years, I think 6 years as MUFON Canada, versus the 50 to 60 years that MUFON HQ is going. So I see progress, but definitely more progress in the last 2 years than there has been. So that's all I can hope.
We only got about 1:30 left to go before we go to our first break of the night. With MUFON Canada, are you all run out of one office, or are there separate offices per province? I
guess we use the internet. We discuss through emails, or like our email is the office, wherever we are. We don't really have a reporting office like HQ does in, I think it's California where they are. We just deal with it on the internet. We're all at our homes. We're all at, I have HQ here. I have a nice office here for my work, but, I'm not considered, like the capital or anything like that. That's just the provincial director. So, yeah, no, we don't really have that. It'd be nice to have, but I mean, again, we're non-for-profit. We'd have to, there's a bunch of reasons why we don't do that. But I mean, it's not really effective in the sense we don't really need it, I don't think. Because our volume, we only have like 565 cases for 2017, whereas the United States had about 7,000, right? So like, and that probably stems from awareness and people actually reporting. See, that's a challenge too, is we need people to actually report these, so we have citing reports to investigate. That's a challenging part too, is having people know where to find it, because a lot of people see stuff but they don't report it. And then when they do report it, like, how do they know? Do they report it to the States or do they report it to Canada? Like,
that's a big debate we can get into next hour, my friend.
Yeah,
and I have no problem getting into that because, well, we'll just talk about it there. We got Ryan Stacey on from MUFON Canada tonight. He is part of the Alien Cosmic Expo that is happening in the third weekend of June, the 23rd weekend. I hope if you're in the Toronto area or even in Buffalo, New York, or wherever you may be, you make the trek up to Toronto and check out this conference. Big names, Grant Cameron, Richard Dolan, Linda Moulton Howe, and many others going to be speaking there. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. Hour number 2 with Ryan coming up after this.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
Coming September 28th to the 30th, it's our first annual Caribou Paracon, put on by Spaced Out Radio and the Canadian Society of Questers. 3 days of paranormal, supernatural, and spiritual knowledge in the beautiful 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Tickets are $150 Canadian for the event, being held at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Come watch our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Lorian Fenton, David Weatherly, Ross Allison, and more. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
Hey Space Travelers, it's Joe Roop, your host of Spaced Out Saturdays. Come join me as we explore the realms of the paranormal, the esoteric, and everything in between every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. You know the truth is out there. Don't get caught sleepwalking. Come join Spaced Out Saturdays. That's every Saturday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, right here on SpacedOutRadio.com.
Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm going to take you for a ride every Sunday night on Spaced Out Sundays. I'm going to set up your week with some strange tales from across North America, from psychic readings, Sasquatch, UFOs, to the most haunted locations. Come join me at SpacedOutRadio.com starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, and let's get weird together. I'd love for you to join me. Spaced Out Sundays at SpacedOutRadio.com.
365 days a year, we're in the field, investigating UFO sightings, talking to alien abductees, and visiting secret military locations like Area 51. We're UFO Seekers, official partner of Spaced Out Radio. Follow our daily search for the truth at UFOseekers.com or like us on social media. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spaceoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spaceoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for some great nightlife? The Moose Vancouver is the place to be. Catch a game on one of the big screens or just come rock out to your favorite 80s and 90s hair bands. Great food starting at $6.95. The Moose Vancouver is open until 2 a.m. nightly. It's easy to find near the corner of Nelson and Granville. The Moose Vancouver is the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Want to learn more about aliens, cover-ups, conspiracies, cryptids, and the paranormal? All you have to do is tune in S4 as we take over Spaced Out Radio Night, starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, each and every Saturday night, right after Spaced Out Saturdays. Hi there, this is Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. Join me, Corey Ruiz, and friends as we discuss the hot topics of the night. It's fun, entertaining, and as dark as the night. Find us at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, it's the first Tuesday of the month, which means Geraldine Orozco will be back with The Spiritual You. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on the SOR Radio Network, including the Fringe.fm. We are also live on Periscope.tv every Monday through Friday night, and we always appreciate
everybody tuning us in there. Our archives are on our YouTube channel. They are youtube.com/spaced out radio. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button for that. I would appreciate that. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Enigma topography. Oh, I butchered that right off the bat. Son of a gun. Enigmatography. There we go. Enigmatography is your password. Be sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets a password each and every right here on the mighty SOR. How do you butcher enigmatography? Son of a gun. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we got a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to some Bumblefoot, shop at our Spaced Out Radio store, read up on the encounter online, or watch great videos from UFO Seekers, Contact TV, and so much more. We are going to be having some improvements coming up to our website in the next short while, so please stay tuned. Ryan Stacey is with us from MUFON Canada tonight. He is one of the speakers, going to be speaking at this year's Alien Cosmic Expo, the weekend of the 23rd of this month in Toronto, Ontario. It's the third year in a row that this event has been going on. It's presented by MUFON Canada. Ryan, welcome back.
Hello.
I'm really upset that I screwed up that password, man. Enigmatography. I had it as soon as it came up, and it just came out wrong. I'm pissed off about that. What a way to ruin a good password like that. But anyways, people always ask what the password is for. And
I'm trying to figure out where you put the password.
It's in our SOR Space Travelers Club on Facebook.
Club?
Yeah. It's our group that we have for some of the chatters.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, you would like Bill. He's a fellow Maple Leafs fan.
Okay.
He's a good Ontario kid.
Good Ontario kid. Hello from Ontario.
Oh, your Ontario accent came out there. Hey, right before the break, Ryan, you had mentioned, you know, people in Canada should be sending their stuff to MUFON Canada, because otherwise, you know, where are they going to send it to? Somewhere in the U.S. That's a big issue right now in regards to it, because some of the information I found out recently was, since October I actually found this out, was that all RCMP reports, if you report a UFO sighting to the RCMP, it actually goes to NORAD, which is based in Cheyenne, Colorado.
We have a NORAD base here in North Bay, North Bay, up north. So Victor Vigiati will speak on that, because we actually have some NORAD flight logs on our website too. Now, so that is like reporting like through general conversation. If you can remember MUFON, and you go to MUFON HQ and you report your MUFON, report your sighting to MUFON, Canada will get it. It's just, it's a hub, it's a CMS. We will get it as long as you give it to MUFON. You know, your MUFON Canada division will get it. So you don't necessarily need to reach out and email MUFON Canada specifically, but it's always good to find us and know where we are. So MUFONCanada.com is our website. But again, we are satellite to MUFON. Our links, like report a sighting and become a member, you click those links, it brings you to MUFON.com, because everything channels through the HQ. So don't spend too much time worrying about, this is a Canadian event, I need to report to Canada. Just report to MUFON. As long as you report to MUFON, we will get it, 100%. We don't have control of anything else outside of the MUFON walls.
I want to get to a question from Kevin here in the Spreaker chat room. He is asking, he goes, I don't care what side of the border MUFON is. What is the plans, or do you have any recent evidence that you have gleaned through MUFON from any investigations that are going to release to the public about UAPs, alien contact or disclosure?
Well, define evidence. So we do not have any smoking guns currently, but we do have data. So the purpose, when I mentioned the Canadian current event survey, when I brought that up. So that is to assist with things like that. So I'm going to see if I can explain it, because you can't see it. Let me just open it up here. Bear with me 1 second. Because to me, that is a start of some of measurable data, which eventually will become evidence, which will support disclosure, and hopefully push from the top where everyone like Victor Vigiani and Grant Cameron and everyone else are pushing from the back end and get release of everything that's happened in the past, because we now have, what do we call it, they've been redacted and freedom of information, like the files have been declassified, that's the word. So I'm kind of tackling it from the other end. Where is my file? MUFON. I'll try to describe what it's going to look like, and once it's released, the public can have it and do whatever you want with it. What's important to know, let me see, here's the columns here of measurable data. Just open it up there. And then this is a foundation that I can use personally for my research, as well as the public can do whatever they need to do with it. So I'm keeping track for 2017 from January 1st up until December 31st. So these are events that actually occurred on these dates within 2017. So they may have been reported, some of them may have been reported in 2018, but they speak of events that actually happened. So you'll have tables, you have the case number. So that is important for you, all you people who have reported to MUFON may have not gotten an explanation on your investigation. I think this is important because a lot of people do report to us, and if you don't get feedback, there are certain, I can't speak for everybody, but I can speak for myself. Sometimes, I know what it is, or we've seen it 100 times, and when we have 15 or 20 cases that we have to investigate in a day, it's really difficult to give a full explanation to everybody. But I do understand that it would mean the world to get a response. So I always try to respond when I can, but I'm also guilty of not being able to communicate all the way through for every single case. So having the case numbers on this survey allows the viewer, if they have reported and they remember their case, they can go in, they can see what it's been classified as, or what disposition was chosen. And then they can reach out to MUFON Canada if you want your report or explanation or discuss it further. So that kind of helps solve that issue, because I don't want a lot of people thinking we're not doing anything with the information. If you don't report to us, we wouldn't exist. We can't do anything without reports. So the next column is the event date, and it's listed within chronological order. The next column is the shape. And then the valet class, which is important as well. So the classification of the type of sighting, whether it's a maneuverable anomaly or abnormal movement in the sky, a flyby, close encounters, so kind of categorized in that way. Sometimes you don't see that when you report it. Then there's tables for pictures and video. There's running numbers to see how many people actually have pictures and how many people don't, and whether or not those are closed certain ways. And then we have the nearest town, the province, and then the status. So every single case within the 2017 survey has been completed 100%. So that is important to know. There are no loose ends, no loose ties. Every single case that's been reported now, that's as of June 1st. So if anything has come in for 2017, we're still going to work on it, but it's not going to be in this survey. I had to put a cap on it. Otherwise, I'll be adding to this survey for forever. And the plan is to put the same cap every year. I'm already halfway through for 2018. But then the following column after that is a disposition. It tells us whether it's identified, a hoax, or information only. And then there's a break, and then there is an investigator column. I'm probably not going to include that, but I do have that for managing the team on our end to find out who's closed to move cases, and some morale boosting that way from internally. It's not really, you really don't need to know who closed to what, but if you do want to know, you just take your case number and then you can ask and we'll let you know. It's easy. That's easy to do. So they're broken into months, and then there's a nice little line to make it all clear and legible. And underneath it, I do a breakdown. So I break down. Actually, I can probably read some of this data, which is okay. So, because you can figure this out too for yourself. So, 7,651 cases have been submitted to MUFON globally from January 1st, 2017 to December 31st. 595 of those cases are events that actually occurred inside Canada. So statistically speaking, that's 7.7%. So Canada is a small scale in comparison to the large scale, but we're still just as important. So I break that down, and then within those 595 cases, 438 of these events occurred actually in 2017, which leaves the remaining 26% of events that happened in the past, either 2016 or 1971. So my focus now is on those 438. And then when I break that down, out of that 438 cases, 222 cases have been identified. Oh, sorry, pardon me. I might skip something there. And then 151 cases are considered not measurable data. So what's important to know with this survey is you'll actually get to see how many cases we've identified. You'll be able to see the strength of MUFON and how important MUFON Canada is. And then the 151 cases that are not measurable, that just means it's a hoax, or the witness may not have provided enough information. We're unable to contact them. They haven't responded. It's really hard to investigate. It could be a legitimate sighting. It could be there's no way to determine whether it's real or not. But I consider that not measurable because we don't have all the information. And I'm looking for hard evidence, hard facts, stuff that we can actually break down and compare to for future years. So out of the 222 identified cases, 174 of those are confirmed identification and 48 of those are hoaxes. 151 cases. I do the breakdowns there. So I think you get the gist of it. So basically, it goes down, and I have graphs, and it's all nice, and it's pretty, and it's easy to read. And then I break down into the classifications. But when I break down into the data, because right now I'm working on provincial data, and I'm going to have it all mapped out, so you can actually see where these UFO sightings are happening, much like you see on UFO Seeker. But what's important to know is that the data that you're seeing at the end of it is only the 65 cases that remain unidentified. So we're not going to worry about the 222 cases that have already been solved because we solved them. We're not going to worry about the hoaxes. We're not going to worry about insufficient data or unmeasurable data. We're going to focus 100% on the ones that we have currently listed as unknown. And then from that breakdown within the survey, you're going to see a breakdown of how many of those have video and how many of those have pictures. And those pictures and those videos are what I'm going to be presenting at ACE. And that way, when you see those, you'll know after you see the breakdown that what we're showing you is stuff that we've already put through the test, put through the ringer, we've already identified. And then we have our baseline. And that data is within the MUFON database. So there's other UFO reporting systems, and there's other, other people who do their own thing in their way. But for me, as an investigator who's backing MUFON and doing the actual doing the actual investigations here, this is the only information that I can trust because I see it. And I'm putting it together in such a way that the viewers can see it and then they can run with it and fight their own disclosure, because we all come together in the long run. But I want it to be simplified, straight to the point. Excuse me. And again, only focusing on what's unidentified. And the only way you can know that is if you are a member of MUFON currently. So by really releasing this to the public, it makes it easier. And I also think it's important for everyone to know how many of these cases are identified. And it's also important for those who may be upset that we didn't get back to you. And, at least you can see how many cases we have, how busy we've been. It was a good year, 595 cases, and all of them all being researchers and data, and the 65 that are unknown, those take weeks to months to try to figure out, and we want those to be classified as identified. Because believe it or not, the MUFON manual does not teach us what a UFO is. It teaches us, how to identify real things like airplanes, satellites, planets. It teaches us how to identify real things. And when we have something that's listed as unknown, it means it does not fit in the natural natural way of things. So that's it pretty much in a nutshell. So the data is going to be as precise and specific as possible for the user, and it's friendly. And then I get rid of all the fluff, because we need real data, and that's in real time. And then in future years, I'll make a correlation, and we'll see what kind of areas or hot spots in real time are actually happening, and see if we can close some of those unknowns. And some unknowns may become identified later on. I don't know, bring that number down. But at least now, as Canadians, we'll have our own measurable data straight from the horse, like straight from MUFON, because that's where the information's coming. That's where the data is. Again, I can only back up MUFON because that's who I volunteer for, and I'm quite sure that other places do the same for the same reasons, but I don't have control of that. So, best thing that I can do is make this as accurate as possible from a MUFON perspective, and hope that this at least helps others who are doing the same thing in conjunction with disclosure globally, because we're all in it together. So this data is meant to be a tool, and I can give you my word that it's going to be accurate based on the information that's been reported to us by you guys. And if you guys don't report to us, then we won't have data to measure, and that's what's important. And it's also important for you to see it, so that way you know what we're doing with it, and you know that we're actually working for you, because you got to believe in MUFON. Does that make sense? You need to see it.
Oh, absolutely. You need to see the evidence. And the one thing that I would say MUFON has going for it is that all of the files are public. That being said, I want to get to John's question here on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio, as he is asking, what are some of the strange UFO sightings or investigations that have passed through your hands that you just do not understand? Give us the details of a couple.
Mostly for me, the things that I have a really hard time understanding is abductions. Not so much actual crafts in the sky, because it's hard for me to lock down whether it's military or alien. So if it's not a conventional aircraft, or it doesn't appear to be, or based on the information that's provided, it doesn't fit within those normal laws of physics and whatnot. Once I determine that it's abnormal, it's really hard for me to determine whether it's military or alien. So because there's no classification, it's either one or the other, or it's both at the same time. To me personally, I consider that unmeasurable. But I mean, it's still it's still an unknown. So I don't really, I always look at those and be like, well, that's strange, that's unique, but it could be technology. It could be advanced technology that the military has that we don't have privilege to having, and that's part of disclosure too. And I can understand why they keep that under wraps, because, we're competing against countries and whatnot, and all protecting each other and all that nonsense. So it's really hard to determine that. So what I can focus on is the abduction cases, because I'm also a member of the ERT team, which is the Experienced Research Team, formerly known as the Abduction Research Team. And through that, we get reporting, we get experiencer reports where people just really just want to talk about their experiences in such a way similar to, post-traumatic stress. They're upset. They basically need some sort of comfort or counseling to reassure them that what they've experienced is real, or not real. Experienced is validated, I guess, or acknowledged, right? Because in their mind, they're thinking they know what has happened to us. So to me, that is what's strange, is that information. Because with my experience interviewing witnesses, whether it be for crime, or for ufology or abduction reports, it's the body language is what's important. And what I see, and when I put through, certain interrogation, or we're not supposed to interrogate, but there's a way to politely interrogate. There's a tactic involved. But what I see is what's important. Is I can see in their eyes, I can see in the words that they choose, in their body language, they believe that something happened to them. And then from there, I'm able to send them to Leslie Mitchell-Clark, which is also speaking at ACE. She's a regression hypnotherapist. I send them to them if they want to get down to it for regression hypnosis, and then Leslie takes it from there. And if they happen to follow through and get a session, Leslie then sends me the audio file as the investigator to add to the report, and I listen to it. And that kind of authenticates whether or not they're telling me the truth, or it correlates and it adds up. And the information is bizarre, because you're always hearing the same kind of scenarios: dark hallways, machines, crafts of some sort, beings being touched, discomfort, heat, pulsive energy. And then I'm hearing all this information from people all over Canada, plus on the emergency research team that starts in the United States. So I also get some occasional American cases as well on that. But even across borders, that information is a constant. Everyone experiences similar things. And I know when I chart it out on the map and stuff like that they don't know each other. And so it's a worldwide phenomenon. Now, does that mean that what's happening to them is alien? There's no way to determine that. Is it military? There's no way to determine that. But there's definitely a belief that it is happening to these people, because the variety of people that make reports range from being on disability and up to being a credible doctor or a policeman who's afraid to identify themselves. Doesn't matter their position, doesn't matter their sex, it doesn't matter their age. Then when you break it down to the experiences and the data that they encounter and the ways that is brought forth, that information is constant. And as an investigator, whether I believe that it's that or not, that is data that cannot lie. That is math, basically, right? Because you have a certain amount of people telling you the same amount of things. Something has to be happening. Then you get into your conspiracies, or then you get into your suggestions and your professional opinions, and whether or not it's psychosis or mental abilities and blah blah blah. But I mean, even if you put one title on one case, there is no way that you can blanket that title for all of them. And so those, to me personally, are always the strange ones, because the belief is real, the emotion is real, the fear is real. Now, to segue into my paranormal, the huge thing that I'm trying to do personally, and the whole reason why I created this page, and the reason why I call myself an investigative journalist and a preternatural investigator, because if I call myself a ufologist, most people will assume that I only investigate UFOs and things associated with it. If I call myself a paranormal investigator, most people will assume that I investigate ghosts and spirits and everything associated with it. But neither names will give any recognition to each other. So when I use the term preternatural, when you break it down, it literally means everything that is above and beyond normal. and that includes cryptids, cryptozoology, like spiritualism, religion, everything that is not normal. And so my main focus is when I deal with paranormal encounters and shadow figures and shadow demons, and if I were to remove that title, and I remove the title of alien abduction, and I just listen with my eyes closed to the people telling the stories, 9 times out of 10, 99.9% of the time, they are telling me the exact same thing. They're experiencing fear, they're experiencing paralysis, they're experiencing levitation, missing time. But yet, in one world, the paranormal realm, we call them ghosts and demons, and in the other world, we call them aliens and abductions. But when you put the two people in a room, they will argue with each other, that it's not the same thing, that they're completely different. So my main focus, and I'm writing a book, and it's called Believe, and it's based on the concept, perspective, really, is just don't believe everything you hear, because, the term paranormal really just means everything above and beyond, too, just like preternatural. It's the same as supernatural. But paranormal and supernatural are fixated on specific groups of strange things, whereas ufology and extraterrestrials, they're specific. But preternatural is an uncommon term that's used, and I'm hoping to rebrand that or brand myself using that name so you can understand that I believe that they're connected and they're quite possible the same phenomenon. Now, does that mean that it's extraterrestrial, like not from this earth, or interdimensional? There's no way of quantifying that right now in my research anyways. But what's important is that these people experiencing paranormal experiences and alien abductions are all suffering the same. And what I want to do once I'm finished with my research and I can actually finish the book and explain it in a scientific way rather than just theorize it, is I'm hoping that these individual groups will realize that their data is just as equally as important as the other person's data. And then when we put that data together, we are one step further and closer to either debunking it or exposing it to what it actually is. Because we have just as much information on the paranormal side that MUFON doesn't accept currently because they're focused on UFO. We do get paranormal reports, but they currently do not have an outsource or an outlet to to have this properly investigated. I've been getting most of them because I've put my hat in the ring saying I'm a paranormal investigator. But here's another thing too. So based on that, this is a stepping stone. Once the book is complete and I'm able to measure the data that way and prove with the numbers and bring it and deliver it in such a way that it is implied, because I'll never know for sure. But if I get majority of the readers to understand where I'm coming from and see the same information under a different perspective, from there I can create a paranormal investigating course that I may be able to bridge into MUFON at some point. Right now, that'll be thrown out because of the Science Review Board, because paranormal and ghost entities are really hard to measure. It's very, very hard to obtain physical data of paranormal activity. And whether you believe in it or not, the actual physical measurable data is difficult to obtain, and it's a lot easier to videotape something in the sky or have reportings and stuff like that. So this is definitely a challenge, and I'm well aware of it. But I just want the viewership or you guys listening to understand that is what my drive is. That is what I'm trying to do, and I'm just scratching the surface on it. And I guarantee that if you follow me on my Facebook page, so facebook.com/heedtheworld, which basically means care for the world, look after the world, look after each other. That is my common goal, is to bring everyone together for the benefit of figuring what this else is. But also, my drive is coming from as an investigator who also deals with infidelity and child support and there's a lot of emotions. So my personal belief on UFO, on ghosts and aliens really doesn't matter, because my focus here within these two realms is that there is a large group of people who are suffering from some sort of phenomenon that is creating post-traumatic stress symptoms. Whether they're, whether you want to say that that's traumatic or it's crazy or it's make-believe or self-induced or whatever, it doesn't matter, because they're still suffering. So my drive is to figure out an understanding to cope with it, or to actually understand and separate those from the masses to actually help and rehabilitate the compassion and care. So when we do, and that is something that I can't do. That's something that I have to do on my own, and I hope, but I'm treading lightly in between both realms, because I always want to bring the two together, and I do understand where lines are crossed. There's borders within the paranormal and UFO world, and it's evident, and it's really tricky, because anyone with a PhD, will just stomp on it and say, I'm a doctor and I'm a scientist and I say this and that. And so I have to, and I'm aware of that, so that's why the measurable data coming from the viewership and the reporters is important, because it doesn't matter if you have a PhD, because the data doesn't lie. Now, well, the people reporting could lie, but I mean, there's so many variables. You have to believe something, right? You know what I mean? Like, we can go on and on and on and on, but at least I can quantify as much as I can and say, there is something strange going on. And then the rest of everyone else can determine whether or not that is one thing over the other. But it doesn't matter, because these people, to me, it doesn't matter what you classify it as, because I believe they are the same thing. And what's important for me is that these people that are experiencing these things are having traumatic events, and they don't have resources or counseling or the ability to speak to people freely about these things. And that is something that I'm trying to do, is to create some sort of a network or set the example so others will do that. I'm sure other people do this as well, but again, with me being so caught up with my work, it's hard for me to involve other people. So I do encourage anyone who may be on the same path or like what I'm doing to follow me as well and reach out to me and help and assist, because, I would like to build some sort of a program similar to MUFON on the paranormal side of things to collect the data and investigate, or at least have that compassion and care and talk to the people experiencing paranormal experiences, and then quantify that data, and then eventually merge everything. But, I'm just one guy with a dream here. But, correct me if I'm wrong, but, I'm doing this for the people.
Ryan, how many times do we get reports in Canada on landings or actual ET contact where people are recalling this incident? Is it as often as once a month? Is it less than that? Could be more?
I haven't finished the breakdown. I would be able to answer that specifically once I get down into the nitty-gritty of the survey. But personally, I would say so there's 565 cases. So out of those cases, I have seven cases that are currently still open that have to do with abductions or some sort of paranormal presence. So the best I can say on that currently right now, I'll just 7 divided by 565 is about 1.2%.
What kind of reports are people talking about with craft on the ground or with aliens they are encountering? What are they saying is happening?
Oh, okay. Sorry, I totally missed the mark on that. Well, for the majority of them, I haven't really seen within Canada of actual touchdowns. So majority of the reports are flybys. Hovering seems to be a common thing. Some have claimed to see entities inside windows in the craft that claim to be that close. But as far as how many, I would say, like a handful. Because again, like 565 cases come in and only 65 of those are considered unknown. That's a small amount. And then most of those could be anomalies. I haven't broken it down yet, but they could be anomalies of flying around. They could be flashing lights too. I don't know. Because within the survey, the data is also the entire thing of Canada. So the only data that I can really confirm on is the cases that I've investigated, and that's exclusively to Ontario. I haven't been able to look into everything that deeply nationwide. So yeah, there hasn't been really.
So what is the weirdest case you have worked on then that you just are left scratching your head?
I had one case in Bellwood. That's the first one that popped in my head, where the witness had seen what appeared to be a flashing light in the sky. She had videotaped it, but then she had missing time. She had reported it to MUFON. I looked into it and talked to her a little bit more. And then I later discovered that the same night while she had observed something, her children were staying at their grandmother's house, and they observed something in the sky the same night. And they told their mother that, but the mother didn't tell the children that she saw something. She had only told me that. So she thought it was a coincidence that they saw the same thing at the same time. But the interesting thing is the children had marks on them. They had geographical signs, I guess geometric, that's the word, geometric markings on their body. So one was in the form of almost an equilateral triangle. They were just like little, they look like moles, but just little marks with white spots around them. And they weren't there before, so the mother claims, because the mother, knows the kids. And so she thought that was strange because she had missing time at her house, and the kids had an experience, and the kids had these markings, and blah, blah, blah. So then we started looking into it further. I asked her to go and get tested with her doctor to rule things out. The kids aren't, make sure the kids didn't have any allergies to metal or something, because some of the old some of the old couches have like the old metal nickel buttons. And some people are allergic to nickel and they don't know about it. And then the pattern kind of looked like she may have laid on an old couch. But I eventually ruled out that theory, and reports come back and said that they're not allergic to anything. And we had them check for sleep disorders, sleep paralysis. The results were negative. There's absolutely clean bill of health. Everything is absolutely fine. No issues on that front. So then the mother has another experience where she felt like she was levitating, and then she woke up in her child's bedroom, but not remembering how to go there. So then I asked her if she would mind doing regression therapy. So then she goes and does that through Leslie, and then Leslie brought her back and I think back to 7 years old. She was originally trying to figure out what was happening in the current situation, but what we end up discovering is her telling a story about being led at 7 years old to and from certain areas, like outside into the sky, flying around by a cat. And she always explained it in the cat and as a black cat, and that was the best thing that she could explain it as. But this cat had led her to an operating table. The cat had led her down a hallway. The cat had led her to a room that had a light, but you couldn't see the wall, so it looked like it was a circular room, but the light was only cascading on the thing. So this cat was kind of leading her from 7 to 13 years of age to 15, all through her entire childhood. Now, she didn't know this prior to reporting, and she had gone in to do the regression therapy to find out the current incident. So while that's all happening, she's still worried about the kids, because the kids are drawing stuff, and the kids happen to have an imaginary friend at the time, and then I asked, well, can you get the kid to draw it? And then it turned out to be this creepy looking reptilian, I guess, sort of creature. and which we have no idea where that come from, and definitely wasn't expecting that to be the imaginary friend. So that was strange on its own. But then the interesting thing is the witness's mother was cleaning out the attic, and she found the witness's old journals from when she was in school. So she was going through it with her kid. Oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot, before I tell you this part, the kid also drew, had a feeling that she was being watched, and she drew what looked like a shadow figure, which was just a silhouette of a stick figure man, I guess, or female with red eyes. And this is coming from an 11-year-old child. So that was strange. But again, the children don't know that the mom's experiencing things. But I know that both of them are experiencing certain things. So then when the grandmother or the witness's mother had dropped off this box of old baby stuff or school stuff of her mother that she wanted to share with the kids, they started going through these old journals. And then she recognized these drawings of cats. And then it started with a cat, a black cat, peering over her bed. But then the cat eventually, through the drawings, as she had gone through with their drawings, they turned into silhouettes of men or like shadow figures. And the information to her at the time wasn't there. So she's now discovering at this present moment that she has been visited by whatever these things are, to the point that she was able to draw them in her journal at a young age. And her child is now experiencing this at a young age, where she's discovered and she's concerned. But in the meanwhile, she has no idea that she is part of that. She's just playing concerned mom right now for her children. And then it ends up turning out that somehow, genetically, whatever is happening on, they're being monitored, or they're able to experience or see the same thing. So currently, that is the strangest thing that I have ever encountered, because I've asked her 100 times to tell me the story the same way. I've asked her to tell me the story backwards. 9 times out of 10, when people are lying, they make stuff up when they're talking.
Well, what happened there? Ryan, are you there? You seem to have died out on us. We're going to get Ryan right back. Wonder if his phone died. Let's get him right back here. 1 second here. Let's see if we can get him back. Ryan, are you there? Can you hear us? I don't hear Ryan. Ryan, I'm not sure if you can hear us. I don't know where Ryan went. Interesting times. Let's see. I'll quickly Facebook message him here. We couldn't hear you. All right. Wonder what's going on here. Wonder what is going on. It hung up on him. Okay. So we're going to try this again. We're going to try Ryan again here. Maybe we tried him too quick. Here. Ryan, can you hear us now? All right, because we still cannot hear you. You know what? We'll do it this way. Hell with it. Show must go on. We're going to do it this way. All right, we're going to make this thing happen. Why? Because we can. And this is how radio is broadcast. You just don't end a show just because you feel like ending it. You got a show, you got to move on. You got to make things happen. The sound quality is going to be poor. I'm not going to lie. The sound quality is going to be poor. But we're going to make this happen right now. Hold on. We're going to get Ryan in here. All right, Ryan.
I don't know what happened there.
I don't know. For some reason, Skype is being Skype right now. The tinfoil hat is getting tight here, my friend. So I got you on my cell phone, and we are making this happen with making sure that I got my cell phone nice and tight up to my microphone here. So you were saying about the lady who was, not sure if anything had happened to her.
Yeah. How much did you
you miss? Oh, geez, you missed a lot then.
Well, we missed about the last 35 seconds, 40 seconds, maybe a minute now.
Okay, so the lady, did I get the part about the drawings? Did I say that?
The drawings we heard, yes.
Okay, perfect. So the lady, the witness, originally was concerned about her child and was trying to figure out what is happening to her child. And then the strange thing is that in investigating the child, I kind of investigated her without her knowing, and then or catching on, per se. And then it was discovered that there was some sort of history of phenomenon happening that she discovered later on. So again, having her go through all the events to the channels and talking to the doctors and allergy tests and rule everything out, going through regression therapy, that's another thing that's important. So regression therapy isn't free. Leslie is kind enough to offer a special discount for MUFON experiencers. But this is, an additional cost that the witness is willing to forfeit to get to the bottom of it. So to me, if you're willing to spend some money on something like that to get to the bottom of it, then there must be some serious fear or recognition of something happening. Because if you were making it up, you definitely wouldn't want to spend $300 to $500 depending on who you go to, right? So in a nutshell, the way that everything had come into place, it's very strange, and that is the most current strange case. That happened in 2016. That's my top case for last year. Mm-hmm. I presented on that at ACE actually last year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. I want to get to a question from our audience here, if you don't mind, because I'm a little behind on these. Catherine is asking, what is the end goal of MUFON? Collect data, but how are you guys going to utilize it for disclosure? Who wants the data?
Well, again, so I have to buffer here. So being in Canada for as long as I have been with MUFON, when I transferred over to the director stage, I actually have been given a plethora of information overload. I did not realize how sophisticated and advanced MUFON HQ actually is, to the point that I am... Another reason why I want to merge Canada with North America is because they have resources, they have access to information, they know not really the same information we do, it's just they're more aware of it because they're working within their nation. So I do know on that back end that we are working towards having, I think it's called a Mars project. Don't quote me on that. There's some sort of new technology that's been brought to our attention that is able to map lights in the sky in real time, if I understand that correctly. So there's information like that's being used, that's on its way. Again, there's an, I don't know if this is public information yet, but I mean, there is a journal or an almanac of some sort, report that's going to be released on MUFON's end that actually talks about the top cases. That is a push towards disclosure along the same lines of the survey that I'm doing here in Canada, is to give an idea to the viewership that this is what we're getting. These are things that are strange. What do you think about it? To create the chatter. Having the symposium and having discussions and promoting reports is what's important with disclosure, because sooner or later, something's going to happen and everyone's going to see it, and we want them to report to us. So, everything we do, I believe, is pushing towards disclosure. I think the hard part is getting everybody out there videotaping properly and sending the data to us. And that's another thing I want to do as a trainer, is I want to put in some sort of a course of some sort to educate the witnesses on how to actually record in the middle of of an actual not a crisis but sighting. Because a lot of this video that we get, it's hard to review because everyone's in a panic, which is rightfully so because they don't know what they're seeing. But for those of you who could take one thing that's very important for when reporting, if you're going to videotape something or take a picture, do not zoom in to see it. Do not zoom in and take your photo. Take your photo as you see it. Take your video as you see it, because the resolution will be a lot clearer if we zoom in at the original DPI. And that is important. So the more better cases that we get, the more better reports that we get, the more solid evidence that we get from our reporters, I believe that will strengthen our chances of pushing disclosure. With everyone doing their own sign of disclosure, we really just have to catch something and exploit it. But we can't do that unless it's reported to us. That's on the MUFON front. And what I'm hoping for is that, and what we're all hoping for, is that we get enough of these strange anomalies that we're able to take people like Victor Vigiani and push that envelope and say, you know, what is this? You know what I mean? How can you deny it? And that's, you know, all these little things are important. So I believe disclosure is coming every single day. Every time someone puts in a report, that's one step closer to disclosure, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. My friend, we only got about 30 seconds left with you tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Tell us about the conference for ACE and what you're going to be speaking on.
Okay, so Alien Cosmic Expo is going to be at the Marriott Hotel in Toronto, Ontario, June 22nd to 24th. I will be speaking about, I will touch base on this Canadian survey that I mentioned. I will be showing video and pictures that have been collected from 2017 and having discussions about those cases in detail. And I'm also going to give a little bit of a lecture on perspective and hopefully explain why I believe that everything should be blanketed under the word preternatural or paranormal. Everything should be, you know, again, bridged together. So I'm hoping to have a discussion about that.
Right on. Ryan Stacey, thank you so much for being on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Really appreciate you taking the time. Coming up in hour number 3, we have John Polk and Eric with a K coming in to break down what happened this past weekend at Contact in the Desert. I'm going to try and figure out the phone lines as well. We'll be back right after this.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
The first annual Caribou Paracon is happening September 28th to 30th in the 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Brought to you by the Canadian Society of Questers and Spaced Out Radio. Come listen to our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Elizabeth Anglin, Paisley Town, Mike Moran, Eric Cooper, and more. It's a 3-day supernatural adventure at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Tickets for the weekend are $150 Canadian. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
We're lighting the void on Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio. Hey, this is Joe Roop, and I'm hanging out in SOR headquarters every Saturday night, bringing you the latest news when it comes to the weird and strange. Bigfoot, occult, UFOs, ghosts, and everything in between, I got you covered. You can tune in to spacedoutradio.com starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. Come travel into the void with us on Spaced Out Saturdays.
Not ready for bed on Saturday night? Right after Spaced Out Saturdays, hop on over to S4 with Corey Ruiz and me, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. With S4, there are no limits to what we try and uncover. From government conspiracies to helping clean up the paranormal, no topic is safe on S4. We get to the heart of the matter, of the subjects you want to learn more about. So tune in on S4 starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, only on spacedoutradio.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories, from alien encounters to the latest conspiracies. You won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories.
From the mile-high state of Colorado, sharing our signal around the world, I invite you to Spaced Out Sundays. Hi, I'm Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm closing out the week by taking you on a paranormal journey to the world of the weird. Ghosts, aliens, psychic phenomena, I will hit it all and your questions too. So let us highlight the paranormal for you. So come join me for Spaced Out Sundays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
Child grew up too fast, went running wild. Now we don't know who to pray
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, Geraldine Orozco will be back with us for the Spiritual You. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We welcome in everyone listening in on the SOR Radio Network, including the Fringe.fm. You can find us on Periscope.tv as well. Every Monday through Friday night, we are live on Periscope, which is always a fun time. And, of course, you're looking for our archives, go to our YouTube channel. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, and I would appreciate that. That's youtube.com/spacedoutradio. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Enigmatography. Enigmatography is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we got a plethora of features for you. Rock out to some Bumblefoot, shop at our Spaced Out Radio store, read up on the encounter online, or watch great videos from UFO Seekers, Contact TV, and so much more. Now, this past weekend, Contact in the Desert was taking place down in California, where some of the biggest names in the field of ufology were there talking about their knowledge, their research. We got a couple of guys who are familiar from the Fringe FM. We have John Polk and, you know around here, Eric with a K. Gentlemen, how are you?
Excellent. John, are you there?
Excellent, man. Yes, I am. I'm just trying to get to a point where there's not all these people talking over each other. So
now you guys are still down there. You guys
do it.
are still, John, you guys are still down there. You're enjoying the festivities still.
We are. We are, absolutely. The conference was sensational. New venue. It was incredible how they are so completely different. The energies were different. I would say they're almost equally as good. My first experience was in the desert last year. I saw 19 UFOs last year with multiple witnesses, including at Awakening Man Eric a couple times. There was 80 MUFON reports of UFOs last year, and there was barely any UFO activity this year, although I did see 2. But the speakers were brilliant, presentations were incredibly professional, and we all had a great time. Eric.
Yes.
What's your take on the weekend, and how do you compare the 2 venues?
Oh God! Well, it was 111 degrees here. If we were in the desert, if we were in the desert, it was 111. Which last year I remember it was in the 90s. It was hot, but there is a huge difference between 95 and 111. I'm going to tell you right now. You can actually become hallucinogenic when it's 111. So the fact that we were in air conditioning and we had a bar there, we had a pool. It was fantastic. I mean, it has to be the best I've ever been to. I mean, as far as if I can, they had so many speakers. They actually had too many because you had to pick between every hour that they had a speaker. There was 4 speakers speaking in 4 different rooms, and then you'd have to pick between 4 of the best speakers in the world. That was the one part, but then you can buy the DVD at the end for $10. So I've got like 8 DVDs of all the speakers I wasn't able to attend.
Gentlemen, let's talk about, and Eric, I'll get you in here on this one first, because I'm sure the big topic of discussion was everything about disclosure, the To the Stars campaign, where everything is headed. How prevalent was that at Contact this year?
It was mentioned by a few people. Actually, it's a good question. Okay, so there was I believe it was Jimmy Church did a panel, and they had all the 8 of the top speakers that were there on the panel with him. I missed that one. I happened to go to bed early, but I did buy the CD. But I talked to Jimmy about it, and what he told me was he asked the audience, and there was probably several hundred people in the audience, what they thought about this whole To the Stars and everything you just mentioned, and nobody clapped or said anything. And then apparently Jimmy said he repeated it, thinking that somehow they were going to applaud. And actually, people started booing in the crowd. So they're not buying it. They're just, these people are very educated that are out here that are these people research. They come out here. They want to learn. They're not out here just for entertainment. But they are not buying any of that. They know I think that people generally believe there's a psyop going on. And most of the people that are here have kind of moved beyond that, and they're looking at other research and other information that we can verify and vet. Whereas, as you know, when the CIA or the Pentagon are involved, it's very difficult to verify or vet anything they tell us.
John, did you see that too?
I did. Multiple interviews I saw from Richard Dolan calling it all out. He did it in Sedona a couple months ago when I was living there working as a medium, and then I recently moved back to Florida, and I flew out to California for this conference again, second year in a row, and he reiterated the same thing again. And we've all had our own private discussions. So you listen to the panels, you listen to all the speakers, and then us attendees, we sit around and we fan it out also, and we pontificate and we put forth our opinions. And I would say a consensus reality from this conference is most people don't believe it. And hey, I wanted to do something. My good friend Brad Olson is here, and he's going to bed soon. And he's like, if I want to speak, I want to speak early because I'm going to go to sleep. So can I pass the talking stick over to Brad Olson?
Oh yeah, it's been a while since we had Brad on the air. Absolutely.
Right on.
All right, Brad, you want to share a few words? Dave Scott.
Hey, Dave, how you doing?
Good, Brad. How you been doing? Long time no talk.
Good. We haven't spoken in a while. I'm just coming back from Contact in the Desert, 4-day intensive weekend. A lot of great speakers and a lot of great knowledge has been shared.
What was the biggest message that you found at this weekend, Brad? Because people such as yourself were speaking at this year's event, always extremely knowledgeable, always extremely challenged to the audience to try and pick up. It's a heavy weekend for the audience, and I'm sure for the speakers as well.
It sure is. It's boom, 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 going to event after event. I was a speaker at one and sitting in on quite a few, and I just love it. It's such a transfer of information and knowledge, and you pick up so much at conferences when you're there face-to-face, and that's what you do for 4 days, is just see the speakers you want to see, and even random things that you don't expect will pop up, and great things happen at these conferences. I highly recommend your listeners check them out once in a while. Contact the Desert's probably billed as the Woodstock of UFO conferences, but there's a lot of other smaller ones that I speak at and others that is a great experience if you're trying to get to the bottom of what this sometimes prickly pear of a subject can be. But I call it the grand subject. It's the greatest thing we can endeavor to put our minds into trying to understand. This will be the breakthrough for humanity once we come to grips of what it's all about and start to understand it.
What were you speaking about, Brad?
I did a talk about the forbidden archaeology of giants in our prehistory.
And how did that go over with the public?
By all intents and purposes, pretty well. I wasn't the only one speaking on the subject. There was also Hugh Newman and Jim Vieira. And it's one of those subjects that really matters because it's up there with UFO studies and UFO research as one of these topics that has been completely suppressed. And we need to know the reasons why and all the available information.
Can I chime in real?
Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
Of course. Well, okay. Not to cut you off, Brad, but I heard Michael Tellinger speak for the very first time. Fantastic presentation. I actually became a fan instantly. And the reason why I even wanted to hear what he had to say is I heard Credo Mutwa, who's the South African shaman, who's about 95 now, talk about what the history of the world and how it came through his shamanic teaching compared to Tellinger. But one of the things that Telger presented a lot of information that I had never heard before, and his research is going to blow your mind. His research is saying that these giants that Brad just mentioned, where they have bones between 12 and 25 feet tall, but he's saying that some of these things that we initially thought were rocks are actually either petrified bones or petrified body parts, and that he thinks there were once creatures that were a mile tall that were on the earth. So chew on that one from Mike Tellinger. Yes, I'm not bullshitting you. Excuse my language. A mile. I'm not kidding. 300 L's. A mile. I know.
Okay. Marijuana is legal in California. So how much was this person smoking?
Brad, what's your take on that? You're the expert on the giant. Do you think that's even plausible? Because I had a hard time when he said that one.
Well, marijuana is also legal in Canada.
Not yet. Not yet. Not yet.
I've never heard that before. That's a stretch. But I wish I would have heard it because I have a lot of respect for Michael Tellinger. There's also the new emergent theory that Devil's Tower is a petrified tree, and at one time on Earth there were these trees that were also miles tall. I'm not sure I'm going for that either, but I will tell you there is a preponderance of evidence for much taller human-like giants living on this planet that were much taller than the tallest recorded human, which is Robert Waldo, who was 8'11" and known to have a pituitary disorder that kept him growing, and he kept on growing till he died. But these giants don't show the same signs. There's also pretty telltale signs when you have this gigantism of the pituitary gland just keeps going full blast when most humans stop growing in their teens or early 20s at the latest. He would have kept going and going and going, quite like lobsters and amoebas and certain trees like the California bristlecone pine will continue to grow their entire lifespan. In the case of the bristlecone pine, for thousands of years, they never stop growing. So one thing I propose is that it's possible that perhaps these giants just had some kind of very long life, continue growing, because some of the higher ones I've heard of are as big as 36 feet. But by far the largest majority are in the 7 to 12-foot range. And what makes them so characteristic and distinct is sometimes they have a double row of teeth, as well as a 6-digit on their hands and feet, which suggests to me that we're talking about another species of human-like or hominid creatures that once walked this earth. And to me, that's fascinating. And the fact that Smithsonian Institution wantonly disgraced and discarded the artifacts related to the giants, as well as the out-of-place artifacts in their tombs and so forth, just deepens the mystery of why would they want to keep this quiet, much like UFO and ET research. In the same way, it has been ruthlessly suppressed and the evidence destroyed. And I have to ask why.
Hey, Brad, I got a question for you from Bob in our chat room. Bob also does all the voice work for me before the show and during the show, and he's a very important part of what we do. And I want to get to his question here. And he is asking, was there any talk at the conference about giants down in Antarctica?
There actually were, and I just saw our good friend Hugh Newman and Jim Beer, and they did mention that there have been some giant finds down there that they know of an ancient type, and I know of some through David Wilcock and Corey Good talk about a megalithic site that's being unearthed near the ship that's also being exposed by the ice, and also these pyramids in Antarctica, which is collectively called the Illuminati Disneyland. That's why all the elite are going down there. And they're also pulling out bodies of giants from some of these sites that are being excavated. So this is the big mystery of planet Earth. What's really going on down there in Antarctica?
And Brad, where are you planning to go? And hopefully I'm going to tag along with you this, December or January?
Yep, that's right. Got Emily Infinity here too, and she had some things to say about giants in Antarctica. Do it.
I actually don't know a lot about giants in Antarctica, but I hope to see some evidence and learn a little bit more here on that. And as far as Antarctica goes, everybody that Brad has told about this trip about wants to go with him. And I think that a party in Antarctica sounds like a really good idea.
Yeah, this time I'm tagging along. I hate being
you're welcome.
I hate being the guy stuck in Canada right now. You know that.
You got about 6 months to make it happen.
Oh yeah, we'll make it happen.
We could broadcast live from David Spaced Out Radio live from Antarctica.
Well,
we're here at 23 below, but we don't care. It's Spaced Out Radio.
Are you kidding me? 23 below, that's T-shirt weather for me in the winter, man. It's T-shirt weather for me. My God. That's barely cold.
Where the gnomes wear down coats.
Oh, yes. Yes. Well, I appreciate Brad coming on here. So thank you for that, guys. I appreciate that.
Right on.
Thank you.
And hold on. Who are you? I don't even know who you are.
Hi.
Hello.
I am
Amy,
a coast-to-coast
it's
listener.
Amy, right?
Emily Infinity.
Emily, you're an experiencer from what I understand. Can you share your experiencer story briefly with Dave? Because Dave is an experiencer also.
Okay.
No swearing,
I've
though. No
experienced
swearing,
things-
though.
Okay. I've experienced things inside and outside of myself. The inside things can go in the dimensions. The outside things become visible in the third dimension. Oh man, this is a big topic.
Mm-hmm.
So who's Dave?
Okay. No. We'll just pass the phone on. You don't know who I am yet, then I'm going to pull attitude and rank here, because I'm.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Dave.
That's okay. Next year when I'm down there, we'll meet and we'll shake hands. How about that?
Okay, I hope so. Thank
Awesome.
you. Okay.
That was funny. Bye,
Here's John.
Emily.
No, that was positive on my own show. Someone saying, "Who's Dave?" Thanks for that.
Sorry, bro. I had no idea.
Yeah. Anyways, I do have to ask here, because do we got Mr. Polk back as well?
We do.
Okay, guys, I do have to ask. Contact in the Desert is the biggest conference of its kind, and, they get the who's who every year of who is speaking. But the question that I have for you is, there is a lot of repeats there, guys. A lot of repeats of the same people, and who are pretty much, I'm going to assume, saying pretty close to the same thing every year. So how do you guys go down there? And I realize people like Corey Good, David Wilcock, and those are a big draw. But how do you guys go down there to listen to the same information each time, or are they changing up their game as well?
Go ahead, John.
There's always fresh material. So, a lot of it is a repeat. And what you do, as much as Eric and I go to these conferences, is you know who you've seen and you know who you have not seen. And I'm always big on studying the people that I have not seen and learn more about them, because just like you, Dave, and you would do the same thing, you would want to interview, of course, all the A-listers, but you'd want to interview somebody that you never talked to before who was particularly interesting and brilliant. And a lot of these new speakers are really good that I've never even heard of before. So that was a big refreshing part for me.
John, would you say that Emery Smith, probably hands down,
yes,
is
Yeah.
The new superstar UFO whistleblower on the block, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and
who is that? His name kind of broke up.
Emery Smith. He's the one that worked with Dr. Greer and then later left Greer, also worked at Wright-Patterson, and says that there are 65 levels under the ground of Wright-Patterson, and he worked in a project where they brought him bodies that were not human, and it was his job to dissect those bodies and to do various medical tests, and it was his opinion that these were either alien bodies or humanoid bodies or clone bodies, but they were not. But these are top secret programs. And what's your take on that, John? I'm pretty fascinated with this guy.
You know, that's a hard curve. It's a very sensational story. What, you know, in the end, what can you prove? Did he prove anything to me? Well, a lot of things I talk about, I'm an abductee, and that's you can't really prove that to people. I worked as a psychic in Sedona, and everybody in the building agreed with me that it was happening to me, but I still couldn't physically, empirically prove that it was happening to me. So I don't know. I don't know. The jury's out. I like the guy. We hung out with him. He's either a totally convincing liar or he's telling the truth. And I liked him. I'd like to think that most of it was true. Nobody is absolutely accurate about everything they say. So let's just go there.
Was there any shocking details to come out of this weekend that either you heard? Both of you have been very involved in the field of ufology, and I'm just curious if anything came out that was new, or was it all rehashed information that we've learned over the last 6 months to a year?
Michael Tellinger came up with some research that I had not heard before. So most of the major megalithic structures are north of the equator, but the biggest megalithic complex in the world is in South Africa. And the biggest cache of diamonds and gold and other raw materials is in South Africa. And that's where he lives. And he was talking about the giants. And Brad Olson, who we just interviewed, 6'9", loves to research giants, does brilliant presentations on giants with empirical proof, fossil evidence from all the continents. But Tellinger came up with some new material I'd never heard before. And this was the best part, is that he's saying that there's evidence that some megalithic structures were actually built out of partial bone from these giants, that the bones were so big that they could actually use them in megalithic structures. And
some of them were
heard that
they
before.
were organs. They're also organs of the giants, too, like heart organs.
Yeah. Yes.
It was bizarre.
Yeah, and that was new research I had never heard before. Also, I also heard from Linda Moulton Howe that the magnetic field around the Earth is collapsing in certain areas, and one of those certain areas is Sedona, where I used to live and work as a medium, and I moved away for a lot of reasons, whatever, but that the electromagnetic field is totally collapsed there, which has enabled a dark portal to form for dark energies to come in there. And it's interesting that there was a Illuminati meeting on April 19th, and then the very next day, there was a UFO conference. So it was very strange, and I had moved just before all that happened. That was some new research that I'd not heard of also.
Yeah, most of the new information, certainly the majority of it came from Emery Smith. I would say number one. Number two, let's see, I learned a lot from Brian Forrester, who's doing a lot of research out there in South Africa on these ancient sites, determining that the timeline goes back. It's provable. 12,000 years minimum. I mean, probably beyond that, 12,530 years. So he's actually coming up with evidence. So there was not a lot of sensationalism. There was a little bit of rehashing. There were a lot of people there that had new information, but it's like bits and pieces. It's like if you sit down on a 7-course meal you're going to get 3 or 4 or 5 of the servings you've had before, but there's always 1 or 2 servings added in there that you haven't had before. So it's so overwhelming that sometimes it takes like a week to digest it all and then actually go back and re-listen, and you can really then pick it apart and then come up with more details. But yeah, I would say at least 20 to 30% of the information was kind of new to me personally.
Do you find, though, that there was a lot of rehashed information, though?
Well,
Yes.
okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but the reality is this, I think I only listened to, honestly, about 6 or 7 presentations out of probably 40. And I knew ahead of time that the certain people I didn't listen to I'd heard before, and I looked and I saw the topics they were going to discuss, and I had heard their topics. And a lot of these people go on the radio shows, and they also go to the conferences every month or two. There's a different conference they're speaking at, and maybe I heard them before recently. So I specifically focused on the people that I hadn't heard before. And then Suzanne Ross, who you have on your show, she had a booth there and also had a room, and she set up her studio, green room, in her hotel room. The room there was just a nice room, actually. And we had at 14 or 15 of the top speakers do private interviews between, say, 20 and 40 minutes. So we were actually able to ask them questions about things going deeper into the topics they were discussing on stage, and maybe even occasionally we would kind of go off topic and ask them questions to try to kind of bring out new information. So, I'm not trying to toot my horn, but if you go on my Twitter, @Awakening Man, I posted every single one of those Periscope interviews. Linda Moulton Howe.
Yes.
They were fabulous interviews. I was mostly in the room with Suzanne Ross most of the time, helping her get the guests and bring them up to the room and do those interviews. So I learned a lot of new stuff. Nothing groundbreaking, Dave. Just so you know, there's nothing that I see happening that I would jump up and down and get all excited about to tell you about. There's a lot. I think things are evolving. There's stories that have been kind of percolating. They're starting, more details, more information is coming in. More research is being unveiled, but yet we still don't have the full picture yet. We're still working on it, brother.
Is that a little disappointing, considering there's people who pay a lot of hard-earned money to go there for that weekend besides just the big alien party?
Well, okay, let me put it to you this way. There are definitely people there, not the majority, there's a minority, that are there for whatever reason. I think there's like an entertainment mindset in the sense that people like David Wilcock, some of these guys that speak, they're very entertaining speakers. Not to say that I believe everything they say, but people gravitate towards the entertainment factor in some of this information. Then, truthfully, a lot of the people that are there, I would say, and again, at least 20 or 30%, are there mostly to socialize with other people that they've known in the field and just hang out, have a few cocktails, have breakfast, have lunch, lay in the pool, and just get together and discuss the topics that are being discussed by the speakers. And we actually sit there and we kind of pick apart the information. We talk about who we like, not literally who we like and don't like, but we talk about, does this information resonate? Does this information vibrate? Do you buy this? And then people have different takes on what they think certain speakers are saying and whether they buy it or not. And I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus on your show, but there's definitely a few of the top-rated speakers that are starting to descend, in my opinion, and some of the newer speakers, the ones that aren't as popular with new intel and new information, are kind of rising to the top. But we'll still see. These guys that are rising to the top right now, like Emery Smith, for example, maybe a year from now, it could be somebody else. So it's weird. It's like, so I've only been doing this 2 or 3 years, so I've seen a pattern that 2 or 3 years down the road, the pattern will be even more obvious at that point to see really where we're getting with all this.
And John, what's your thoughts on that? Do you think it's time for people to start shifting into more newer information than it is about what we see, the same old, because when you have the same old people, and I'm not dissing Contact in the Desert for this, but their lineup is usually at least half familiar. And I realize those are the names that bring in the money, and in the end, they got to pay down the bills for this because it is a very expensive weekend for the organizers to put on. But I'm just curious your thoughts. Is it time that maybe even some of these, familiar faces maybe get into some new research that they may want to change their speaking on?
I do agree with that. And one thing that they're doing to answer the call is they're trying to get more into quantum consciousness. Consciousness on a multi-dimensional existence, omniversal kind of paradigm. And that's what I'm all about, the quantum hologram matrix. We make our own matrix. We are not just a third-dimensional being in the third density. In the fifth dimension, let's say I'm a Pleiadian. In the seventh dimension, let's say I'm an Arcturian. In the 12th dimension, let's say I'm an Archangel. And I live within my own pantheon of selves within the universal God consciousness. And this whole concept is starting to come out. And a lot of the left-brain pragmatic scientists are starting to loosen up a bit on it. Like Robert Schoch last year for the first time at Contact used the word alien. He had never associated the megalithic structures with aliens before by using the term alien or ET. Never did it, but he did it last year. And, so they're going through a catharsis themselves. Some of these, left-brain scientists, which we need, are starting to loosen up a little bit. They can't be so rigid and dogmatic in their studies. And they know that. They know they have to open their minds to consciousness. And they're starting to. So there was like a quantum consciousness panel, which was awesome. And it was one of the best panel discussions I'd ever heard because they weren't basing everything on empirical physical evidence. They were trying to go beyond, the paradigm that we create that limits us from thinking beyond the realms of the known reality. So anyway, that they're trying. So I'll give them that. And hey, Dave Scott and Spaced Out Radio and all your listeners, thank you so much for having me on. My good buddy Brad Olson's about to go to bed. So is Clifford and Hootie. So I'm going to hang with them. And thank you for having me on the show. And like to do a full show maybe in the future sometime.
Absolutely, my friend. And, now that you're part of the Fringe FM and broadcasting there, it'll make it a lot easier to do that, too.
All right. Hey, thanks a lot. Thank you for everybody in the chat rooms. And, put this out on social media. It helps everybody. So, everybody, God bless. Good night. And we'll see you online.
All right. Eric with a K, we got you here. A question from John on Twitter. Did anybody see Daniel Sheehan's speech, and did he give any new information?
Oh, my God. I did see these guys. I feel sorry for these speakers because they've got them so booked that to get them to just... I did not actually hear his presentation because I did hear him do a presentation recently on a radio show. So I know the information that he's talking about, but I actually tried to get him to do a private interview with me, and he agreed, but it was like so many other people were pulling on him. I just recognized that some of these people were just going, nuts, so I just backed off. So, but yeah, one day I will, I've connected well enough with him where if you gave me, for example, send me a Twitter list of questions that you want answered, I'm sure I can talk to him and get some answers on some specific topics. But Sheehan is somebody to watch. He's somebody to listen to. He's somebody to pay attention to. I think he's got legitimate and verifiable information. I think there's no fluff in what he has to say. I will say that about him.
He's got great hair, too. Fantastic hair.
He does. You're exactly right.
He does have great
hair. He's got that cheese bro working well, I got to say.
Oh, yeah. you imagine how tight his Jerry curl would have been in the 70s? Seriously.
If there's such a thing as an honest lawyer, he might be the one, just so you know.
Did you put me on speaker or walk into the bathroom?
I took you off speaker, actually, because I came into the living room and I didn't want to be on speaker.
Gotcha.
So I'm back outside. I walked outside because I needed to get out of the bedroom I was in so Brad can go to bed.
No, not a problem. I do appreciate you doing this. I really do. And
yeah, it's all good.
In regards to the weekend, how many people were there?
Oh, Jesus. Thousands. Yeah. Jeez. I mean, 2,000-3,000, maybe 4. But, here's what's bizarre, okay, to me personally, is even like a month or two back, I was doing some research on the original contact in the deserts back in the 50s with Van Tassel. From 52 to 78, they had these conferences out at the Giant Rock, and I actually stayed out there for a week prior to this conference because I just wanted to be and see if I'd see any UFOs. Holy shit. Oh, my cat. I'm sorry. I didn't. My cat just, anyway. Sorry about that. The bottom line is this, is they were getting 5,000 people out there at the Giant Rock in the desert in the early 50s, driving out in their cars and sitting on rocks and listening to the speakers. And then it got up to as many as 20,000 people in 1978 were attending these conferences in the desert in 1978 with George Van Tassel and all those guys that were experiencers. And so here today, in contrast, you've got this beautiful 5-star resort, air conditioning, da-da-da-da-da, and, we don't even have 5,000 people. We got 3,000, 4,000. I mean, it's a lot of people. It's impossible to talk to everybody. There's a lot of people I wanted to talk to. I just didn't have the time. But, I mean, just going back in time, though, in my mind and thinking, wow, just think about it. They had 4 or 5 times this amount of people in the 70s paying attention to this UFO conference and these topics that we're talking about right now. And that's kind of a mind-blower to me.
It is kind of mind-blowing. What was the attitude there? Because, let's face it, the To the Stars campaign really lit up the entire field of ufology the last 7 months. Was there a lot of focus on that, not just from the speakers, but I'm saying people talking on their own? Because let's face it, you go in and I've been to a couple conferences now where I'm starting to get a feel of this. When you go into a conference, people want to hear you speak, but not necessarily want to hear or talk to you afterwards about what your speech was about. They want to get your opinion on, well, what do you think of this person, this group, that group, whether it's MUFON or To the Stars or, Grant Cameron's research or whatever it is. Were there a lot of people talking about it there?
No, okay, you'll be able to relate to this. The conference that you and I were at in San Francisco was, I would say, imagine 1/20th of what we had a contact in the desert. Now, honestly, the question you asked me was, there was literally, I cannot recall maybe one time we briefly, even the topic of To the Stars came up briefly, but here's how it works here, at least in California, and maybe other places as well, but because I live in California, is, we're talking about an event that you and I were at several months ago, that the information and the understanding of the information has advanced so quickly that it's not even a topic of importance or interest at this point. The people are like, you know what, we're not buying it, we're not feeling it, we don't trust it, whatever it is, we don't know, so we're just going to move on and just kind of put it in the compartment up on the shelf and leave it there. We've got other things to look at. So honestly, that was not really, not even in the top 10 of interest in what people were talking about. So, and there weren't a lot of people talking about other people. They're a highly educated group of people at the CIT. Very high, the people that are there, they're going to these are a lot of educated people. They're doing their own research at home. They're talking to people. They're asking questions. So if there's a gray area, they've already figured it out before they got to the CITV. So these people are going there to see if they can find new information, also to meet people, to talk to people, to see what they think, if their opinions and thoughts and feelings are the same as theirs. So there's a lot of that going on. But it's I don't know, there's a lot of confidence in the people that attend the CITV where they're not really, there was really no fear porn going on. Nobody was really was tripping out about anything. it was a different vibe. It was a different flavor than what you experienced in San Francisco. Next year, you definitely want to get out to CITV Day for sure, 100%.
Well, we're gonna do our best one way or another to get out there next year. I do know that in talking to Lorian Fenton, that the two speakers that Contact in the Desert inquired about her were both Geraldine Orozco and myself. So,
well, I could say this: both you guys should be on the list, in my opinion. Even if we hadn't developed, a friendly relation here. But the point is there are speakers. They're always looking for new speakers. I actually don't know the owners personally, but I've interviewed them. I've talked to them. I chatted with them during the event this year, and I know enough people that are in the mix, so to speak. So I will put a good, strong word in for them to take a serious look at you and Geraldine. For sure, you guys should both be there, in my opinion. And if there is an opening that exists right now, I'm sure you'll be considered. But, it's like anything. They actually had too many people. To be quite honest with you, in my opinion, there was too many speakers there this weekend. Too many. I was pretty disappointed. There would be 5 events happening at the same time, and they were all good, and I couldn't decide which one to go to. And so I finally make a decision. I'm going to go to this one. I'd go get in line, and then the room would be packed, so I'd have to turn around, walk away, and then go find my second choice. And sometimes that room was packed. So sometimes I would just say, "Oh, F it, I'm just going to go get the full, and I'll buy the DVD later." It's really the truth. I mean, you had to actually be there early to get into some of these rooms. These speakers were that popular.
Outside of everything, it's been a great weekend, and everything's ramping up now?
Yeah, it's a done deal. Everybody left. We're going to go, Brad Nolson and I are going to go exploring a few areas right around the Palm Springs area, some of the sites that, okay, how much time we got here? We got a few more minutes. Are you doing a thought of the day tonight, by the way?
We are. We got about 5 minutes here. We got about 5 minutes.
Okay, this is, I'll tell you what, for me personally, this was, I would say, the highlight of my weekend. That I always like to find something I would not have expected, that information that came to me that I wasn't looking for. So we had a party here Saturday night, and I told a few of the people, I said, you invite who you want. I trust you. I'll invite some people. We only had room for about 60 people. So one of the guys that got invited to the party, I'd never met him before. His name was Josh, and he lives in New Mexico. And he is part of he's got videos on YouTube. I can't think of right now the top of my name what the name of his group is, but they are heavy into Bigfoot research. And I heard some of the most amazing Bigfoot stories from this guy. He actually ended up crashing on the couch because, a few people had too much to drink. And so that the next morning we wake up, we're having coffee, and then we're telling stories. And then all of a sudden this story, he says they have been tracking this family of Bigfoot. There's 7 of them. He's seen them. He's experienced them. Multiple people have seen and experienced these Bigfoot family that they've been tracking in New Mexico. And I heard some of the most amazing stories. We don't have enough time to get into them tonight, but I was excited, and I believe the guy. I'm looking at him, and this was not a radio conversation. I'm looking at the guy in the eye. I'm watching his body language. He's showing me videos. He's showing me pictures on his phone. He's giving me, I've got 3 or 4 hours of history. I'm kind of interviewing the guy actually over a cup of coffee. So I kind of vetted him. And I know he wasn't a BS. He was a very low-profile, kind of kickback kind of guy. He wasn't somebody out there trying to brag about his information. Matter of fact, I don't think if he had not stayed here, I probably wouldn't have heard any of it. But you know what I'm saying? Sometimes you meet people, they like you, they trust you, they share things with you. And that happened this weekend with this Bigfoot story. And so anyway, I'm going to be going to New Mexico later this year for a few days, and he's going to take me out to this area where this Bigfoot family lives. And he says, if your consciousness is right, your vibration is right, if your intent is right, the Bigfoot will know it. And if they feel that, then they will come out. But if they don't come out, then you're not ready for them. And that's more or less in an energetic way. That's what he told me.
I would 100% agree with that, Eric. 100% agree with that. Yeah, and it sounds like the kind of guy I would like to have on the show. Totally.
Oh, he'd be fantastic, and I can get him for your show, just so you know. Yeah, he'd be fantastic. Yeah. Talk about some new intel. They're finding treasure. That's a whole other subject. But there's a treasure hunt thing going on that nobody knows about, that I've heard about from a few people out here recently. That's a whole other topic of interest. It has nothing to do with ETs, but when you tie in the search for petroglyphs and hidden treasures, and you've got the pyramids and things of that nature, and you find out all the gold that's buried throughout the world in the United States, and there's an interesting history about the true nature of gold and how it was used by the ancients and the gods at one time. There's a real history about that that's interesting, I think.
Well, we're going to wrap things up here, Eric, with a K. When do you head home?
Probably a couple days. I'll go home, and then I'm going out to Dulce, New Mexico. They're having the Indians are having their annual conference out there. I made good relations with them 2 years ago, and then I saw them again last year. I actually went out to Dulce, New Mexico, and spent a half a day with them. So I really, really want as much. They will not share this Dulce Underground-based story with just anybody that asks. They have to really trust you. And if you're a white man, they need to know you and trust you before they start to give you information. But I'm confident that this time around I might have some information about some of those underground bases that the Indians know that they're just not allowed to talk about because they're scared to death to talk about it. So I'm hoping to get that for you in the near future.
Appreciate it, Eric with a K. Thank you so much for popping on.
Okay, brother, I'm going to hang up. You have a good night. We'll talk to you soon.
You talk soon. We're going to get to the thought of the day right now. Thought of the Day happens every night at this time, where we put a question on our Facebook page and Twitter. We get you to answer it. And then we read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. And we thank you for being a part of it. Today's Thought of the Day is, what's the strangest experience you've had while viewing a UFO? Mine personally? Well, that's easy to answer. It was that landing. The way it was communicating with the lights. I mean, you just don't expect that. You don't expect, on your command, lights to turn on and turn off. Now I realize there's people saying out there, Dave's bringing the woo factor, and I know who you are. But no, seriously. When you have an experience up close and personal like that, and the way you're talking, and all of a sudden the lights are going on and off at your command, that's a little weird. It's a little strange. It still baffles me to this day. Something I will never, ever forget. So let's hear what you guys have to say. Keith stood up first, and he says, I've never seen a UFO, but I wish I had. Kind of deflates the concept of the question, don't you think? Keith, you need to see a UFO. Step out of your church, because he is a pastor. Step out of the church and look up in the skies, man. That's what you need to do. Brandy Wells hops in and says she had the ability to use her astral projection right after it happened. That would be kind of cool. Even though I'm still not sold on the whole astral projection thing, that would be kind of cool. Because, I mean, you think about it. Wouldn't you just love to be able to, like tune out for a little while and, see what's inside one of these UFOs, or, go check out how the X is coping without you or something along those lines? Be crazy. Crazy. I would like to try and learn how to do that astral projection. I think after everything settles down around here on the show, we got the studio built, we got Amy doing her thing, and we're just rocking it every night. I'm going to take some time for me, and I want to learn how to do this astral projection. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Tim jumps in and says, not yet. Haven't seen a UFO. Gee, Tim, why not? You're not looking at the sky, you're looking at your phone. Or your television. Or you're driving and can't see through the top of the car. All right, let's get to Debbie. She says, the weirdos that come to your home after the Shadows 2 in home a week after, witnessing telekinesis, teleportation, and levitation.
Boy, that's the whole gamut there, Debbie. That whole levitation thing would be kind of cool to see. Haven't had that happen, but that would be kind of cool. John states, I've seen a UFO a few times in my life. It was one time in 97, 98 when I lived in Toronto as my dad had a job transfer, and I seen what looked to be some kind of flying round disc. It was a yellow color and looked like a mini moon. After that, I noticed what looked to be a weird, dark, round, black shape in the sky. Then I noticed what appeared to be windows next to my car. After that, I'm not sure what happened. Somebody got taken. Wouldn't you all agree? I know somebody on Twitter just had something like that happen. Weird. Strange. Who believes it anyways? Who believes it? Old Davy does. I like the good experience like that. Reading stories like that just kind of give me a little bit of heebie-jeebie where I'm like, oh, I know what that's like. I know what that's like. Maybe not the full extent, but similar. It always feels good to hear a story like that. Let's get to Eric Mitchell. I was knocked down and held by an overpowering vibration and frequency for about 15 seconds. The only reason why I was aware that I was vomiting is that I felt my throat open for a few seconds. I looked up and I saw the object just before it shot away. The after effects are to this day unexplained. Getting sick because of a UFO. I have heard of that before. I haven't experienced it personally. But how much do you have to go through in order to get sick from a UFO? I mean, that just cannot be very fun, especially when you've just had that experience. It's got to be tough on the body. I wonder what causes that. I'm really not sure. Graham on Twitter. Yeah, walking through a portal onto a stone dry but aired moon with craters on the far side of the universe for only a few minutes, lots of galaxies. That ways, Mr. Dave Scott. I left only footprints on that moon, then returned back to the portal 50 feet away, back to the room, safe. There's this portal thing again. You know, this portal thing is always coming into play. Just like our question last week, would you step into a portal? I know I would. Just to see what goes on. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? Julien says, interesting. As it's not what we saw, but what we felt. Was too young to remember what I felt, I guess, but I sure do remember it all. Babalu, I saw one bright light break formation, then it flew close to the ground. 6 smaller lights came out from underneath and shot out in different directions. Maybe 20 minutes or so later, they came back to the big bright light, then shot up and disappeared. That would be a stellar sighting. John states, when I was around 10 years of age, I'm guessing, we lived far and out of the country, or in the country, pardon me. One night we were sitting there listening to the radio, and all of a sudden there was nothing but static and interference. So we went outside to investigate. One of us seemed to recall that this often happens when UFOs are in the vicinity. Moving slowly in the sky to the north of us was a multicolor object moving in the westerly direction. Oddest looking UFO I've ever saw. Allison gets the last word tonight. The UFO going straight down and disappearing. I was expecting it to fly up. It's one of them downward UFOs tonight. I want to say a big thank you to Ryan Stacey from MUFON Canada coming on the first 2 hours. John Polk and Eric with a K coming on in hour number 3 with Brad as well. Appreciate them all coming on to tell us about contact in the desert. What a great time tonight was. Dave who? Who is this? Yeah, I'll remember you, my pretty. Tomorrow night on the program, Geraldine Orozco joins us
for the spiritual you. It happens every second, maybe make that the first Tuesday of every month. We have a lot of fun with Geraldine, and we love her knowledge and quest to find the truth, and we're going to talk a little bit about aliens tomorrow night and the feeling of contact happening to you. What does it feel like? We'll find out tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. I want to say a big thank you to everybody listening at home, in your cars, at work, wherever you may be. A special thank you to everybody on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. In the Spreaker chat room tonight, good to have you back, BTF&O. And, of course, everybody in the SOR Space Travelers Club, the veterans, and on Periscope. Thank you so much for making it a fun show. Thank you for helping us grow on a nightly basis. You make it better every single night, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow night. Thank you so much for sharing the show with your friends on social media, in person, in voice, wherever you may do it. We're growing bigger and better, all for you, because together, my friends, we own the night. Talk to you in 21 hours from now. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Good night.